Hello, this is the 2022 video chat. Yeah, okay. What was I gonna? Yeah, I guess I have few announcements. Nothing too big. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing. I'll get to the questions. Yeah, my brain's still a bit scrambled. Yeah, I guess that's the first thing. My plans from last time completely got shattered. I was gonna have people help me edit it no matter what. Well, the first editor ended up being too busy, and then the second editor, it just really wasn't working out. I mean, he had good instincts for some of the action shots, but others, it just felt so off to me, and so I ended up basically intervening and editing the episode myself, but which kind of made me work pretty solid through a lot of December. But I'm gonna try again with more editors. I still need to respond to people about that. There's like another wave of people I missed after the first attempt. I'm gonna not be as picky as the first time, but at the same time, I need to like it needs to feel kind of comfortable to me. If like just the cuts feel really jarring or don't flow together well, I don't know. My brain just isn't gonna let me release that. So what? Yeah. Okay. So I'm just rambling now. Okay. So I ended up doing the Christmas episode myself, but I'm gonna try again with getting editing help with both audio and video. I'm behind on that because I'm so backed up on emails. I need to research previous things I did. Let's see. Oh yeah, and I'm aware. I'm not sure anybody called me out on this, but they maybe should have. I'm aware I sort of broke ranks on covering the division because I said I wasn't gonna cover games on Game Dungeon that were like semi-modern, only like real old stuff. And the division is absolutely a demanding game graphically. However, that was just sort of an exception for Christmas. Every other Game Dungeon I've planned except Christmas stuff is gonna be just stuff you can run on basically any computer from the past 10 or 15 years. So until the video card drought abates, which who knows how long that's going to be. That's not going to be a problem for Game Dungeon. So, yeah, the division, it just seemed too, well, there were two things pushing it. Like, one was it just seemed too perfect for a Christmas episode. Like, I originally played some of it a little bit last year, and then I just stopped because I realized, like, wait a minute, this feels like two different messages that I'm getting from like the story versus what I'm seeing. And then I was even thinking, maybe I just forgot details and they're really explaining and this makes sense. And then so I went through just kind of like, am I gonna be able to make an episode out of this? I'm like, they're not explaining anything. Like they really are just leaving you out in the wind to figure it out. So it just worked out well. Let's see. The oh yeah, and the other reason is because it is online only. Who knows how long it's gonna stay up? It'll probably stay up a few more years though. Like I think when Ubisoft starts killing off their major ones, I think the crew will probably be the canary in the coal mine for like the more major titles. But yeah, that one came out before the Division. So. But yeah, sorry about that. But future ones, it's only going to be older stuff. So that if you're running on something like integrated graphics, you should be able to run anything that I have coming out for the foreseeable future. Let's see. I think there was another announcement, but I forgot. So, oh yeah, my future plans. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. My brain got a little fried doing a crunch to get the video out on time. Though, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I put a lot of time into the editing on that one. But yeah, I guess first priority is for me to catch up on like all the people who have contacted me offering to help and just kind of run them through like some test trials to see how that goes. I mean, it won't be too much of their time, of either our time. To just, I want to just have sort of a test to make sure we're on the same page. Because if we're not, then it's just kind of a lost time. So I guess Game Dungeon. See, I didn't get. I'm really disappointed with my output for last year. Like a lot of the time has been going into videos that aren't out yet. Like a lot of the next Game Dungeon is already done, but it ended up going on even longer than I anticipated, so that I shelved it and moved towards Halloween, or then moved towards the Christmas video. What? Let's see. When people are talking about newish, what I mean is performance-wise. Because video card, I could still cover a new game if it's like a 2D game or something like that, where if you have a computer from 15 years ago, you can run the game just fine, then it qualifies. So it's not about the age, it's about it being the end times for trying to get a video card right now. So I don't want to rub it in that I have something that can run games decently. So let's see. Train of thought. Oh yeah, so I guess Freeman's Mind is I'm probably gonna be pushing ahead on that, because that only needs so much help anyway, and they sort of have the pattern down for that. And plus, I feel like I owe Freeman's Mind fans like a few dozen episodes, so I kind of want to have a bit of a crunch on that. Well, not crunch, but like a persistent output. And then there's this side video, a big one I've been wanting to finish up. Still have a lot more to do on that. And once I get that done, that'll probably be between several Freeman's Mind episodes and the side video, maybe some miscellaneous stuff, depending on how much help I get. That'll probably be next couple months, and then after that, I'm afraid output's going to be lower this year because I have to go in on the movie, and that could mean I go months without having much of a new video besides the video chats, because like I'm going to lose my mind if I don't. Like I feel like I'm at a point now where I have enough income coming in that I can afford to like burn off some goodwill and some of the income, watch the income drain some, and still be okay for a while. So that means I can afford to finally work more on the movie. So that's the plan. It's kind of, I'm still months behind where I wanted to be with my other plans. So we're kind of just going to finish up the bare minimum of that, then move on to the movie. And also maybe take got distracted by the chat. MCAA says, stealing from work is just so much more stressful than not stealing from work. It makes me wonder where the conversation was going. Yeah, I might take a couple break days this month too. Like I meant to do that in November. That never happened. Like I ended up realizing it's like, well, geez, if I do that now, then this video is not going to get out on time, and then it ended up still taking more time. Like I was hoping to have a break after Halloween, and I didn't really. I mean, I guess there's a difference between a break and like a day off. Like for me, a break means like I'm not working like 10 hours a day or more. It's like, oh, maybe I only work 6 that day, you know? Whereas like time off means I just didn't work on stuff and I haven't done that in a while, where I just wasn't working on something. So I would like to have a couple days off. Again, so that might slow things down a little bit, but probably not too much. So yeah, I don't know what's happening this month, but I promise I'll be working on something. Again, Freeman's Mind's like the most likely next thing. And hey, if the editing help goes well, then there could be a lot more Game Dungeon coming. If it doesn't, I'm afraid it's going to slow it down, and I have to play triage and put it on the back burner so I can get more on the movie done. Like no, I'm going to be very unsatisfied with myself if I don't get the movie made. So, So yeah, there may be a lot less videos this year. So I'm apologizing in advance, but I won't start the potential drought of videos until like a couple months from now. So that's the plan, and a lot of my plans can get wrecked sometimes. But I feel like I'm finally in a position where I can afford to work on the movie more. And like too many years in the past, it felt like, oh yeah, if I take a lot of time working on the movie, then like 6 months from now, I'm not making rent. That feeling was so persistent in the past, and now it feels like, okay, it's like I'm staying afloat, okay, just from previous views. So okay, I'll start answering the submitted questions. Let's see. Okay. Soylent Green was set in 2022. Are you excited? I didn't know that it was set then. Well, I guess yeah. If you wanna be optimistic, I think we're behind schedule then. If Soylent Green was for 2022, because I think I think we have a decade minimum before things are like Soylent Green. Probably multiple decades, but like I think a decade minimum. So I mean when I think I don't really see things getting better overall, but I mean it'll be unequal, but the general trend if you look at a lot of different metrics. But Soylent Green was bad. Like the oceans were dead in Soylent Green, if I remember. Like and like yeah, you had New York City and just people just sleeping out in hallways on the street, just everywhere. Like it was just incredibly crowded. There was yeah, heavy food rationing. So yeah, so things are not that bad, I think. And I see us at least a decade off before things will get that bad, and maybe longer. Yeah. So okay. So next question. Oh yeah, what have you learned in 2021 that you're going to apply in 2022? Well, my first thought, yeah, it feels like so much of my time working on things is like it's like there are like so many things like, oh, I'm gonna have to get to this when I have more time, and then it feels like I never have more time. So it kind of creates this not great feeling about that. But one of my first thoughts with this was my wife actually had she shared a Twitter post with me that she saw where it said something like uh, that they just completed a chore that took them 20 minutes that they had been putting off for 5 months. And it's like, I will learn nothing from this. And that was the Twitter post. It's not that bad. And in fact, when I was doing the crunch earlier, well, the latest crunch with the division, I think I mentioned before, sometimes what I do is like when I just have to work almost around the clock, as sort of like a morale boost, I'll just start making a list of fun things I want to do when I have time again, like like movies I want to watch or games I want to play, or just sometimes research I'm interested in. Well, I did that again this time, but then I also did. When I was thinking of them, I was thinking of small things I've been meaning to do or research for sometimes a very long time that I haven't gotten around to yet. Well, sometimes they might be. I say small things. Some of these could be things that I'll probably figure out if I just really go in at it. I might figure it out in 5 minutes. Other things might range from several days worth of research to never, and I don't know. I can read off that list if you want. It's not that interesting, but yeah. Okay. Well yeah. Here's like the first example. Most of this is computer stuff, but the first example is I'm using an older version of Photoshop, and I guess it has a bug in it where when you use the magic wand and then you copy something from that, even if you have anti-aliasing checked, it ignores it. So that it's always like the hard lines copying it. I remember that's created problems for me in the past. Like I usually either just deal with it or fudge some of the lines or like manually trace it with the lasso tool. So if there's not too much I personally do with Photoshop where I really need Photoshop specifically. And a friend of mine's been raving about this in Affinity graphics editing software. So maybe I'll like look into that and what maybe see if I can maybe make like a list of tasks of stuff I do in Photoshop to see how it works in Affinity or some other software. See if I can go through make like a checklist for myself. And if I do, then just maybe move off of Photoshop. So that was one example. This is one where I'm not sure there is a good solution, but maybe look into like, assuming I can't find help to my satisfaction, find easier ways to do volume balancing, like maybe a custom peripheral for it, where I can just highlight something and maybe use like a little slider or something, or just have like a preset. But that's for like actually editing the audio. Sometimes I usually do two phases of volume balancing. The other can be inside the Premiere, and I remember I think it was on Twitter somebody was mentioning what I was describing previously was called ducking, where you temporarily lower the volume. And there's an automatic option for that in Premiere apparently, but most of the time I'm not sure automatic will work out so well. But I'm curious if there's like a ducking preset where it would be manual, but it already places the points for me, and then I could just tweak it a little bit. Or maybe there's not a fast solution to that. I don't know. That's one that would take more research for me. I'm gonna figure out more mouse gestures. That's another thing I have. I need to learn. I think it's called Xmouse. That's the software where if you're depending on what window you have highlighted, your mouse can behave differently. So like the same button, like in, web browser, could do a different thing if you're in a video editor or music player or something like that. That could increase my efficiency in the long term. I just haven't gotten around to looking into it. This is one if I get, again, I'm getting more enticed by an ultra wide monitor. If I get one, I've heard some games, they not only won't work with ultra wide, like even if you try to hack them and everything, but they won't even have the black bars. So what I was on the side, so it's like just on the desktop and that's it. So I was thinking is if I run into a game like that, maybe I could use something like Rain. Well, I use Rain Meter for a couple basic things, but maybe I could come up with a hotkey for Rain Meter to just add the black bars in for that if I run into a game like that. So I'm just trying to think ahead here, but I'm still on the same monitor. The monitor I wanted to get was like sold out everywhere. So let's see. Oh yeah, I want to replace more of the icons to stuff I like. I need to find well, maybe Earth-Infused does this. I need to find an image viewer for WebP files. I mean, so far, because sometimes I'll be looking for images and they'll be in WebP format. Usually, what I've been doing is just copying it to the clipboard and then pasting it in like Photoshop or something. But it would be good when I could just save it. It would be good to find like a general image viewer that supports that. I'm sure they're out there. I just haven't gotten around to looking at it. Some more stuff with the Z order on Nexus Dock. You want to mess with. I need some more furniture because we never, since moving, we never really set up like a proper dresser for clothes. Or no, we tried to get one, but then the paint smell never went away. like after a year, it's still there. Just haven't been using it. So we need furniture, I guess. I wanted to do more research on DPI scaling in Windows because, there's like a few different problems you can have with with DPI scaling. There's sometimes it can be blurry, but I found a fix for that, I think, where it uses Windows 8 style DPI scaling. But then there's some programs it just won't work on, or it doesn't work on some elements of it. Or there's others that it will scale just badly and then the buttons go outside the viewable area, that sort of thing. I was thinking, so I wanted, and it's kind of confusing in Windows because there's like the basic option in Windows 10 that you can adjust, but then there's a compatibility mode, and then there's multiple options within the compatibility mode. And I haven't seen it well documented, like what suits it. Also, I'm trying to see if there's a way that you could just tell some program, like let's say you have because if I'm going to a higher resolution, I'm gonna want like better DPI scaling. And I was thinking, one option, let's say it's like a real stubborn program, it won't work well with it. Would we just have it scale everything 100% and then have like a third-party program do like nearest neighbor scaling and then just double it or something like that? And there is software for that, like lossless scaling, and then I forget the name of the other one. There's another one that was free. I tried them both, and they sort of worked on regular Windows. Like they scaled some things, but then it was just black bars for others. I think those are mostly designed more for like pixel art games. So that's another thing where I may or may not find a solution. But let's see. Oh yeah, this is one. Hey, maybe the chat can help me with this one. Okay, say I have a video and I wanted to remove, like a video clip, I wanted to remove a logo or like a HUD element. There's like a basic way I can do that now to sort of like just stretch the pixels around it. But I was thinking in image editors, a lot of them now have options where it can use AI to take its best guess on what to fill in. I've used that a lot. The guess is usually pretty good. Is there an equivalent of that for video on software that doesn't require a monthly fee? That's the question. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. It's another thing I need to look up. So like if you wanted to like remove a logo or something and just fill it in, have AI take its best guess, but except for video. How would you do that? Yeah, this is another thing I just haven't gotten around to. Apparently Premiere now has an option to use AI for like slow motion. Like it'll intelligently try to guess the frames. I haven't even tested that. I've just used Butterflow in the past. So I wanted to try and have some samples and see which does a better job, that sort of thing. Yeah, just do some quality comparison testing. Let's see. Just more organized scripts for FFmpeg for some functions I sometimes need. I have a bunch. It's badly organized with how I have stuff set up. Like if I need to extract the audio or convert it to a format, I can edit in, that sort of thing. Let's see. Yeah, I need to. My Gmail is getting more and more full, so I'm really gonna have to start deleting some emails where people sent larger attachments. But sometimes those have information on them that I don't want to lose. I read online there's a way to separate them. I tried it, it did not work. So I have downloaded this big archive of all my emails, like the Google takeout option. So I need to go and just check and verify I can open everything in like, was it like Thunderbird or something? And then go through and just start deleting the bigger emails from my Gmail, but still have a system set up if I need to search for something. Let's say I wanted to reply to someone, and I remember they said something like about a giraffe or something. I can do a search for giraffe, but let's say that email was one that also had an attachment. I need a system so that I can easily have a process. So if I do a search on Gmail, giraffe doesn't come up, or the email I want doesn't come up. I want to be able to quickly go to like Thunderbird or something, do the search of giraffe there where the big email still resides and see if it's in there, that sort of thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, for the AI thing, my email, again, rosswsky@gmail.com if you want to contribute to if you have suggestions on some of what I mentioned here. Yeah, some of these are just small things. Like I got Need for Speed Most Wanted working in widescreen and with lighting tweaks and with VR. But I realized I didn't document the process, and I had to do some experimentation to get all that working. So I should really document this. So if I ever want to come back to that later, I have the notes on it, make it simpler. Oh yeah, well this is one for Premiere. But like, maybe this is a real basic. Sometimes in Premiere, if I need to adjust the timing of a shot, like after it's already been edited, like, oh, that should be a few frames longer or a few frames shorter. I have to basically grab every single thing that happens in the timeline after that and shift it over a little bit, and hope I didn't accidentally miss some of the tracks where everything goes. And it's kind of tedious and it's not efficient at all. And it wouldn't shock me if there's a much faster and more efficient way to do that, but I haven't found it, so it takes me research to do all that. Let's see. Yeah, I need to get a water filter for the sink and install it, make sure it'll be compatible, that sort of thing. Another thing in Premiere, I've never really used the stabilizer option, like if you have shaky footage. Most of the time I don't have that, but this is the sort of thing, like a lot of this stuff is stuff where if I'm under time pressure and I need this, then it's extremely frustrating to have to research it then. So this is like a bunch of like prepared preparation work. So in the case let's say I did need to stabilize footage, because it's shaking all around. I wanted to test that out, see how it works, what works best, that sort of thing. Yeah, somebody's saying ripple edit tool that selects every clip after the selected clip. I'll look into that and test it and try and. It's something I should have been. See, this is stuff I should have learned years ago. But when it feels like you're just under time pressure like all the time, then you drop too many things. Is the problem. Okay, so yeah, that's my list that I made during the last episode of things I should be working on, of like the small things I've been just putting off. So. Okay, so more questions. What do you usually drink in general? Water? I mean, what I've found is, soda can be okay, but it's not particularly good for you, And the thing is, I'm not really, even though I can be a sweets addict, I'm not particularly addicted to soda. So I figure, well, why drink it then? Or fruit juice isn't much better, really. It's basically the same thing, just with vitamins. I mean, as far as like the sugar content is my understanding of it. I've never really cared for the flavor of tea. I mean, I don't hate it, but my wife probably makes tea like every single day and drinks it, but I just don't care. So I just drink water. Yeah, I guess that's the thing. I can easily give up soda. So I figured, well, might as well do it. Give myself. So if I am going to break my diet and have something tasty, I want it to really count. Not like slow drip feed me sugar, Like if I'm going to have sugar, I want to have like a all out like chocolate cake or, chocolate chip cookies or strawberry shortcake. Something where I'm just like, it's like a complete junkie satisfaction level, and soda doesn't do that for me. So But yeah, I pretty much just drink water. Yeah, my wife says I'm like some sort of animal. So just drink water. As a long-time content creator, was remained the most consistently enjoyable aspect of video making. You know, I don't know because it like things just sort of turn into a blur after the last episode. And what I found is if I'm working just around the clock, I more and more stop caring about everything. Like it's like I don't care. I just want it to stop. Just stop. Like so, it can kind of skew my perspective. There's a, but from like I guess again, it would be nice to have a few days off. Um, I guess what I do like though is when a shot just comes out like almost exactly or sometimes even better than I was envisioning it, and it just has exactly the impact I wanted. Like like the Seinfeld scene in Martian Gothic, that came out pretty much exactly as I was hoping for. But because you know, you can have an image in your head and sometimes it turns out that way, sometimes it's you realize you were barking up the wrong tree and what you had in mind just isn't going to work. That one came out great. You know, it's like, or actually in the division episode, yeah, like some of the shots where I'm trying to, you know, trying to make us look like the good guy, and then we just go to the combat and we're just shooting some guys running. You're like ah, and they kind of, or that scene from was it Dark Blue, where he's talking the story about the rioters, you know, with Kurt Russell there. That I was thinking, see, I didn't remember. I just remember him talking about that. I have to like go and like look at the footage to see like, will this fit? It's like, oh, that was perfect. You just like, it's just like, yeah, the building collapsed. I guess they all burned up. I don't know. You know? Like that set the tone so perfectly with the division. Yeah, or Daniel Sang was mentioning in the chat, like I have a ship that's a carrot, like in Tyrion. Yeah, that was another well placed one. So I like it when, yeah, I'm thinking of the A team. You know, I love it when a plan comes together. You know, I like it when it really goes the way I was thinking and the scenes work out. Let's see. There's a few questions, but I'll get to some. I'll get to some questions at the end of the chat. I think this one won't be as long. We'll see. Let's. But yeah, yeah. I guess, or actually, I was thinking in the Morning Patrol episode. I I remember I picked out. I had like maybe 10 shots because the physics engine makes it a little different each time. In Source SDK, where the Hound Eye blew Mike back and he hits the lamppost. I must have had like 10 shots of that. And I was just going through watching all of them and just picking like the best one, you know. I remember that being quite enjoyable. Yeah, that stuff like that didn't even feel like work. It was just so yeah, seeing it manifested in a really good way, you know, to the point where I almost want to rewatch it myself. This is probably my favorite part. Let's see. What are what are some of the tiny details in games that really make your day when you see them? Yeah, I guess I didn't really have a good answer for this. I guess I like maybe sometimes funny stuff. Uh, where I think it was, yeah, well, I think I put it up on the website. There was a mod I played, some zombie mod thing where you like look at a lamppost and it says, and it has this picture of a rabbit and it says, have you seen this cat? Dial 1-800 not a cat or something. And like, or I think in the Freeman Across the Universe, they use a clip, some footage from, I think it was the game was like Devastation, where that has some guy screaming he wants his cat patty or something or like I don't know, it's just weird hidden stuff like that. Or the, the um, a few months back, I finally played Grand Theft Auto 4, and I remember when I like hit one of the cars, like you hear this girl saying, "Oh no, this is Daddy's car!" Like it's or yeah, the Grand Theft Auto has a lot of like good like kind of one-liners that I guess what I like is like it raises your it raises your intrigue about like what's the story here. Like you get the feeling this led to this is leading to more to a whole story in and of itself. So I guess I like that, but I don't know if those like really make my day. It's just that I can like them. Or I think it was in San Andreas. There was there's a guy walking along and saying, if I when I find that Chihuahua, I'm gonna kill it. Again, it makes you wonder, like, oh, well, what's the story here? So yeah, I like Grand Theft Auto in particular is pretty good about that sort of thing. Someone saying the writing in Bully is bad compared to GTA. I don't remember. It's been a while. I don't remember a lot of the writing to Bully. Uh, I don't really remember it being bad. It just sort of it might have been more like by the numbers, that sort of thing. It was certainly an interesting premise, but my memory is so blurry on it. I mean for the dialogue, I kind of remember the world from it more for Bully. Oh yeah, if you had to chance to make a rough diamond game or series into an absolute masterpiece, what would you choose? Yeah, and there's things so a game that wasn't that great, but that like had a lot of room for improvement. Um, this is the sort of question where my answer could change, at different times. But I stopped and thought about it. The one I came up with, I think it might be Messiah, because I feel like that had a lot of really solid ideas into it, and the execution, it just it it it, it definitely strikes me as the sort of game where if they like let's start over and like with a bigger budget, it could be just amazing. And because there's like multiple elements going on there that I think would make it really fascinating. Because one is it's set in the future in like this dystopian cyberpunk city, but still has like a very solid kind of dark comedy angle to it. And then one thing I didn't mention in the video, that I didn't really think of it consciously, but I like the sort of detachment from like God intervening versus what's actually happening on the ground. So God's sending his cherub to come like rectify the situation, and he's just sort of taking a hands-off approach after that and just kind of hoping it goes well. Whereas meanwhile on the ground, I mean, this is really gritty, violent atmosphere that Bob's getting involved with, and Bob doesn't particularly understand this world that well either. And I feel like they kind of under yeah, I did mention that in the video that they really didn't go as far as they could have with just the chaos and confusion of being able to possess people and then do things and then just go off and do your own thing. Like that's something where you would want a lot of dialogue for what's going on. Like where people are just confused and you want that hesitation or people trying to figure or like people trying to help you like whoa, what are you doing? Like, you can't be doing that. Like, you know, there needs to be so much more of the other characters giving the benefit of the doubt because from their perspective, this is somebody they've known for years and know about them, and then they're behaving very erratically. I felt like that was way underexplored. Um, yeah, it was. let's see. It was there's a lot of potential there, and like the comedy potential is like through the roof, and then having Bob sound like he's voiced by like a 5-year-old or something just added to it. So yeah, the laissez-faire approach of God in that game, like he was intervening, but beyond that, you got the feeling God wasn't too concerned with the details, and just kind of hoping for the best. And I like I like that approach because like like typically like in like theology or mythology, when you think of like angels coming down to earth to, set things right. Well, I guess not in the Old Testament. Yeah, this is much more Old Testament, but like it's often portrayed as like these divine beings and like having a plan, whereas like things are so much sloppier in Messiah that it's like it, I don't know. I love the contrast. I love the contrast of it. So yeah, I think Messiah would be a really, uh, I think it'd be a really solid candidate for a redo. Yeah, if you could get a bigger budget or yeah, and then because there was room for improvement across the board, but like the theme and like the gameplay premise, I thought was like really solid, and the writing was decent too. We could just use more of it. So okay, well I'll answer this. Did you know that there's a bootleg Russian dub of Freeman's Mind 1? If so, what do you think about it? That's yeah. I am aware of it. I mean, I figure it wasn't really worth me going after because it was a different market. Like there again, it's a Russian dub, and I don't offer a Russian dub on the channel, so it's like yeah, if I wanted to, I could crack down on them for copyright, I guess. But it just, I mean, I'd rather have the extra exposure, even if I'm not getting anything from it, so more people could enjoy it. Now, really did crack down on one channel in the past that was doing that because then that channel turned around and made copyright claims on me. So in other words, they had like it was like, let's say Freeman's Mind 15 or something. They laid a YouTube copyright claim on the original Freeman's Mind, episode 15. And so I went and got advice as to like, well, wait, how should I handle this? So not only did I like fight the claim, but then I went and made claims on all of my videos on their channel. And that basically took it all down because like, I get the feeling what happened was this was like a business where they probably told somebody like an intern or somebody lower to just go ahead and like kind of make claims on some of the videos, not realizing that these were more or less kind of stolen, reappropriated ones. So yeah, somebody says this. The chat here, Gaffer says balls of steel or just sub brick intelligence. Yeah, I mean that's really the way I looked at it, like having to put a mad dog down because I mean it's like it wasn't good enough for them to just be kind of flying under the radar and me being like, all right, you're collecting money off of what I made, but it is different, so I'll let it go. I'm not militant about this, but whoa, now you're trying to claim or get taken down my videos are the ones that you took from. So yeah, I remember I got some like negative comments because people thought at the time I was just trying to crack down on any imitations. I mean, look, if you're gonna put up an exact copy of the video, I probably will eventually like copyright claim that. It's not something I'm seeking to do. And if it doesn't have many views, I might just ignore it. But if it's like stealing like tens of thousands of views and it's just an exact copy, you're not really helping, but they were dubbed. I think at one point, one guy from the network like reached out to me and offered to like give me a cut, but then that never manifested itself. And it probably wouldn't have been that much anyway, so I was just fine with letting it slide. But yeah, but that's the one time I've gone full copyright claim on the whole channel, is when they came after me for yeah, I like that expression, sub brick intelligence. That's really what it was because it yeah, it's more than biting the hand that feeds you. It's like biting the hand that you're stealing from. Yeah, it would be like if you like broke into somebody's house, stole something from them, and it's on camera, and then you sue them for I don't know. It was not wise what they did. But okay, more questions. 15.ai was brought up last time, but there wasn't conversation brought up about it, or it could be worth bringing up again. Yeah, it's and they're saying, yeah, I looked into it a little more this time. Yeah, it's deep learning text to speech generator that can generate the voice for characters and media. Yeah, mixed thoughts on this. I guess the first one that probably everybody misses is right now this is an on to the best of my knowledge, maybe I got this wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, this is online only, and you can't run a local client of it, and the source code is private. So that means if the author ever stops supporting it, or let's say he gets in a car accident or something, that's it. It's dead in the water after, and nobody can use it again, and we're back to square one. This is why I friggin' hate this stuff so much. You know, I mean, I'm not saying he needs to like release his source code, but I really like it when they do stuff like that. But if you can't have a standalone client, then it's, I mean, maybe they're working up to that. I don't know, but I doubt it. So I guess the optimistic approach is this isn't totally unique, and others will probably follow in their footsteps, and somebody will have a version of this sort of thing that you can run in the future, regardless of whether they keep supporting it or not. So hopefully that manifests itself. But it's interesting. It's not necessarily something I'm super interested in. I mean, I guess for my videos, I'd rather just get voice actors than. But yeah, I'm sure you could do creative stuff with that sort of thing. Actually, one of the thoughts I had from this was on the old Machinima channel. A lot of the videos weren't necessarily my thing, but I remember there was one that I thought that I liked. It was called Christopher Walking Through. Christopher Walking Throughs, where they would play various games and then they would just give commentary on it, like with a Christopher Walken impersonator, and he was pretty good. So this might open up the door for more people who want to do that sort of thing. Like I remember there was one. Remember one he was covering Doom 3 and showed him in hell playing through the game, and I probably can't do a very good impersonation of him, but it was there was one line I remember where he was saying something like, "Do you know what the difference is between hell and Chicago? In hell, they don't put ketchup on your spaghetti and say it's tomato sauce." You know, so it was pretty good writing and delivery. So I should see if more of those are up. I think they were another channel that was trying to escape Machinima's clutches. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There's probably some more uses of this that I'm not thinking of that could open up some, like, you know, again, like me with the Dream software, what I really want is the, like, basically extracting maps and worlds from games be kind of repurposed. though I'm slowly getting some help with what that sort of stepping stone that I mentioned. Maybe I'll link to that again. And I'm getting some help, but more could be appreciated. I think we are damn close to having 2D footage, or most 2D footage, converted into 3D if you're looking head on. Like, so if you look at it from the side, it'll be all distorted. It won't be as good, but that's still pretty impressive. So I think all the pieces are there. It's just getting it all working and then working together is the tricky part. So, but yeah, I remember reading a while back. I think Adobe planned to have what? Let's see. Adobe planned to have something like this where they were going to use AI assisted software for generating dialogue or video. I think it was called like Voco or something, VOCO. And they ended up canceling it. I think they said because of ethical concerns. The way I see this is the technology is going to emerge. And yeah, there'll be people who use it for like fake stuff that they shouldn't, but it will probably be detectable by experts. And I mean, I'm not saying this stuff isn't a problem, but I feel like even, okay, like let's say if you're putting out like fake evidence of something or something that I feel like some of our biggest problems right now are from things that people are doing that they just aren't being covered, and with no like trickery at all with trying to fake other people that they said or did something that they actually didn't. I think there's just not enough coverage and stuff that people actually did. So I don't. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a problem. I don't think it's as big a problem as many other things. I feel that way about many things that the internet sometimes gets upset over. That's much lower on the totem pole for me. And I obviously see the creative potential of stuff like that. So yeah, you kind of have your own celeb. Yeah, I'm not even sure if this was. I think this was real, but I'm not. I'm sure some people will know what I'm talking about. There was a there was a prank phone call a while back where they. Oh geez. Oh yeah, yeah. Where they prank phone called. I think it was Ving Rhames, and all they did was playback clips of himself saying provocative stuff to him, and like again, maybe this was fake, but it sure sounded real. Where he fell for it, and he started trash talking basically himself. He kept saying stuff like "Meet me somewhere, bring all the artillery you want." That's like no, he's saying no, you meet me somewhere. Like he was. Like he basically was getting really upset over like just recordings of himself. It's like that sounds like me. Like, and I think I want to say a few months after that, like it might have been like state legislation passed where they were where there was like a special law against impersonating celebrities or something. I want to say that might have contributed to it. Is utterly hilarious. If here, I'll make a note. I'll try and have a link to that in the YouTube description of the original phone call. It was. I was laughing at it because it sounded like he took the bait. Like he was saying, it's like, you know how much my family's on the police force. Like it was. So yeah, I guess you might see a rise of that sort of thing, but I'm seeing a lot of creative potential myself. Yeah, so yeah, I don't see the dangers of this as being so extreme that, we need to clamp down on this and make sure nobody can ever use this sort of stuff. Uh, I think what this means is you need to up your game for authenticating, for detecting forgeries, I guess. So there could be like some patterns for. Oh, good. Maybe somebody's linking to that in the chat. Uh, there could be some patterns where you can tell, no, it was an AI that did this, even if the average person can't necessarily hear the difference. Though I don't think it's really at the point yet where there's no way you couldn't tell it wasn't the real person. But I could see it getting there pretty rapidly for the average listener. But it could be. But if you're actually going through and analyzing the audio, it would probably show some patterns that you could tell it's a fake or not. So let's see. I think there's already a lot of that for stuff like photoshopping images, though I imagine it's getting better and better. But yeah, so sort of forensic detection of this sort of thing. Uh, what's the most embarrassing situation you've ever been in because of something you've done or said? Well, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to go into details on it, but I thought about it, and I think getting arrested probably would take the cake. So I did not get arrested again. So I learned from it. Let's see. Do you think the internet lost some of its charm and appeal from its Wild West days? I think this got asked before. And although I noticed something when looking at the questions. I might have to have a new policy. The person asking this, he who eats oranges, asked 10 questions in the chat. So I may start pick and choose more from him. I think I kind of want to limit it to like 1 or 2 per person. Not that I'm really gonna. I'm sure if you wanted to spoof more, you could, but it's just maybe try to like limit it some more. Yeah. I mean, maybe a little bit. I kind of. I feel like we're almost reverting a little bit because I want to say in like the late 2000s, search engines were much better for like trying to find really specific stuff. And now once you get past the first page or so, a lot of it seems like garbage. Or it's like even worse on YouTube. Like I don't know. I think I think Google's slowly abandoning the long tail of things. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot more information that's out there now that I appreciate having. So, I mean, I guess the Wild West quality of it is interesting, but it's I like being able to have more. There was a whole lot of information I couldn't get back then, that I can now. But I guess the aesthetics of it I guess that is some appeal of it, where you could have more clunkier looking sites, and that's much rarer now. So, how well would you fare at speaking to a live audience of 100 up to 100,000 people about a chosen topic? I think well, I mean, I guess it helps that I've been doing these video chats a while. I mean, I'm sure I'd probably be, a little nervous about it, but I think I could hack it all right, especially if I knew what I was talking about. Like if it's something where if I clearly know what I'm discussing, I think I could handle it. Whereas if I had to just sort of improv, that probably would go pretty poorly. Well, I mean, by improv, I mean, like I need some knowledge of the topic I'm discussing or have some opinion of it. Otherwise, I might not. But I don't think it would be flawless. Because I mean, I'm not. I'm not like completely cool as ice, like just not even caring that like 100,000 people are watching. And you see, that's part of the thing about the internet making the videos is it never quite processes to me as real. But if you're actually seeing the audience, like, oh yeah, this is real. So, but I think I might stumble a little bit, but I think I'd be all right. Let's see. I mean, I had to do plays in school, so it's kind of the same thing. Have you ever considered episodes about console exclusive games, Ross's Game Dungeon using emulators? I mean, I guess I could, but I don't know of games offhand that it'd really be worth me covering that someone else hasn't already covered better. You know that. I mean, there probably might. Whereas, how many games have I covered where nobody else covered it before I did it? Just sticking like the PC or combo. It's probably multiple episodes, like that there was just nobody that mentioned it. So it's a little more wild on the PC side of things. Whereas, like on the consoles, like there's frequently like there's some people who have like documented exactly how many games there were for that platform, like to a T. So like in every single one of them's covered, that sort of thing. So uh, that kind of like the more kind of Wild West aspect of it, and plus I just have more experience with PC games. So. Yeah, somebody's mentioned how I did the Carnival episode. Well, Carnival wasn't a console game; it was an arcade game, so it's kind of a different flavor there. Okay. You want to know what's the most you've ever spent on a game? What's the most you tend to spend on a game? Okay, well, the most I've spent on a game was a couple of years ago. Was my now sister-in-law really wanted a copy of Fallout 4, and this was like a month after it came out. So I was like, oh, geez. So the best deal I was able to find for it was $43. So I got that for her. I don't have a copy of the game myself, and I'm not like I guess if it was handed out for free, I'd probably accept it. But I'm not like dying to play it. I mean, I played Fallout 3 in New Vegas. I felt like it was probably going to be more of the same, um, and more of the same in a series I wasn't like 100% on board with. There's some games I would absolutely play just more of the same, but that wasn't one of them for me. So yeah, as a gift, that was probably the highest cost one. It was like $43. But I may end up breaking that in the future because my wife is becoming more and more interested in Final Fantasy 14. So if she really goes on board with that, then I'm probably gonna. Again, I've never paid for a subscription fee game, but I guess I can sort of rationalize this one because when she plays games, she plays the hell out of them. Like with Guild Wars 2 and Minecraft. Like I think she actually would justify the cost for the amount of time she would put in that. So I may not have a choice on that one either. But we'll see. I think she's gonna do Final Fantasy 15 first, and then. But saying it's pretty good, but be wary of the sunken cost fallacy. Well, don't worry. I'm not planning to sign up for it, but so I think I'll have a pretty level-headed view of the cost for it. But like, it's kind of rare when there's like a game she really gets into. So it's, I mean, I guess I'll just have to swallow that pill if it comes to that. For me personally, I honestly don't remember which one, but I feel like the most I ever did was $20. Um, I think, and that was a long time ago. I want to say, see, I don't remember if it was this one or if that was only 15. I remember I got a Gabriel Knight combo pack. So I think it had Gabriel Knight 1 and 2. I can't remember if that was, I can't remember if that was $15 or $20. But since then, like, since things have gone digital, it's like the prices have just gone down. What's the most I tend to spend nowadays? I think it'd be around $750. That sort of tends to be like the upper limit of mine for stuff that's on sale, and even then, it has to be like a little bit more high profile game, like not something that looks like it's just kind of something that you might be done with in a couple hours and have a little less production value. the what it maybe if I catch up more on games I want to play, then then I'll consider getting some more. But I have such a big backlog that to get through, it's like it just doesn't even make sense for me now because there's so much I want to. There's so much I want to get through that I've been kind of slowly going through a few more titles since I finished the Division episode, but trying to stay ahead. There's just so many games. I guess the upside is I'm continuing to make myself just very picky, and like several of the games I went through, I think they didn't make it towards complete skip, but there's several I realized after playing like 20 minutes or to an hour, it's like, no, this one's playthrough, watch a playthrough material. I'm gonna skip it because like it really has to like hook me in now one way or another for me to like kind of go through with it, or just kind of mystify me. A lot of the game dungeon stuff can kind of mystify me. So okay, we have a question about Final Fantasy 14. Oh yeah, they're saying that the game became so popular over the last year that the servers got completely screwed when the new expansion came out, and basically the devs told people to just go away because they're full essentially, no vacancy. Is there anything popular you like or enjoy that you wish was less popular for whatever reason? I originally thought I would have said no, but actually I played some more of the Division after I made the episode, and I think my video may have had an impact because I got put in queues, and then there were several times it says like poor connection to the host, and a couple times I just got kicked, I got disconnected. So that never happened when I was making the episode. So I'm thinking the video may have gotten some more people to either try it out, or else old players to think like, yeah, let's go back and play more of that. I don't know. That's it's not very it's not very scientific, the measurement here, but I didn't have that. I had no connection problems or queuing or anything when I was filming the footage for the episode, and then that all started happening after I made it. So I'm still kind of going through it slowly. It's it's a fun game in chunks. Is how I feel about it. So yeah, I guess if something becomes so popular that like it's actively creating problems for me, then yeah. But in general, no, I'm not. I guess the only other time is this is a very petty thing, but sometimes if it's a game that's not very well known of at all, and it becomes popular before I get to that episode, I'm thinking, oh man, it would have been better if I got to this earlier. But that's a very petty thing. I'm not against games becoming popular. So, I mean, obviously I don't want the devs to feel overwhelmed, but it's great if a game I like becomes more popular. It kind of increases the support for it. So. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Nintendo selling digital-only single-player offline games for a few months before delisting them forever. Pretty lame. I mean, like, yeah, it just seems, uh, yeah. So they're not dead games. They're limited time, then intentionally delisted games. Uh, that's bad for preservation, and then I'd say that incentivizes piracy more because you're creating a popular product and then you're refusing to sell it to people. I mean, it's you know I'm thinking of like the analogy of water kind of flows along the path of least resistance. So if you're actively damming like one avenue, but piracy is still open, then that's gonna incentivize piracy. I mean, obviously, I don't like it because I feel like if people want to play a game, they should be able to. One that's been sold to the public. Yeah, I mean, I can respect like not wanting leaks of a game that's in development because it's not ready for the public, and kind of ruins the surprise or the full impact, or just I can appreciate that, wanting to clamp down on that sort of thing. But it's if you sold it to the public, I feel like the public should be able to play it one way or another. Uh, Just saying one of their greatest heroes, E.O. Wilson, just passed away today. Any thoughts on him? He'll probably be remembered as the most important biologist of his time. I'm afraid I didn't know much about him. I had to look him up. It sounds like he might have been some of the inspiration for who is it? Hank Pym, the scientist in Ant-Man, because apparently he had a genuine interest in ants also. Yeah, I guess I just wasn't that familiar with him. Sorry, I'm I'm generally pro science though, so obviously if he's contributing to the field, I mean, we're unlikely to have too many people like that. What software do you use to listen to music? What do you think of it? Why are you sticking to it? And what does it lack? Someone who's been using Winamp since the late 90s. Well, once okay, at the moment it's Fubar 2000, and the reason is I don't listen to music as much as I kind of as I want to. So usually if I'm just listening to sound files, and what I've found is Fubar 2000, it brings it up and starts playing it immediately. So if I'm going through a bunch of sound clips, I don't want I want as little delay as possible. So, I mean, we're talking milliseconds. Now, once I get my music organized and get back into the habit of listening to music more regularly again, I'm probably going to go back to Winamp, because I found that media library function could be extremely helpful for like, if I have like a general category of music I want to listen to by mood or something. I remember the media library function made it real easy to just kind of pick that up, and then I could just hit random play and all the music would more or less fit. So yeah, if I can get my act together with music, I'll probably be going back to Winamp. But Winamp has slightly more of a delay for playing. So if I just want to play something immediately, like to see, okay, which sound effect is this, or which music is this, where I'm just kind of like browsing through stuff and trying to just kind of more work related rather than enjoyment, then I just want something that plays instantly. So I think Fubar is better for that, but yeah, I think the media library on Winamp is very desirable for where I want to end up. So. Okay, so I was saying they really loved watching me play Dungeon Crawl, and they capitalized Dungeon Crawl, and I've never played a game called Dungeon Crawl. I think what they mean was maybe the Death Trap Dungeon footage I played, and they're saying, are you going to play any more old school PlayStation 1 games from the 90s? I mean, possibly I could play more stuff from that era. I actually, Death Trap Dungeon. I don't know if I were to do more streaming again. I think what I could see that being the one I might do more of, because I mean it was absolutely antagonistic to the player, but they did it in like pretty kind of a funny way. Like this is like you're in on like they're making a joke and kind of a spectacle out of this. So I kind of appreciated that element, and it lends itself better to streaming, where some stuff feels like it's just they want soulless mastery of just a game. And it's like, well, if you're not really enjoying the process, then what's the point, you know? Um, yeah. Okay, so somebody like the Death Trap Dungeons stream. I could maybe see myself continuing the Death Trap Dungeon stream. Though I admit the 15 frames a second, that was kind of rough. Like I'm not a fan of the frame cap for that. And you can increase it, but then it's linked to the physics. So what it yeah, it would play twice as fast. So that if you made it 30 frames a second. But yeah, no, it had kind of a charm to it, you know. And it's absolutely the game I would prefer to play with other people as opposed to on my own. Yeah, that's not a game I would want to really play on my own. Death Trap Dungeon. Okay, this is oranges again, but it's not a bad question. What is your opinion on certain franchises accidentally becoming self-parodies as time goes on and IP holders change? They're saying examples that come to mind are Fallout's Vault Boy being a parody of corporate mascots now being used to sell Fallout merchandise, or Games Workshop denouncing 40K Imperium of man as evil and wrong, despite the universe being for the most part morally gray and ambiguous. Yeah, well, I'm not sure those are the best examples of like self-parody. That's not like okay, for the Fallout guy, like my impression of that was that I mean maybe there was a more deliberate purpose. When I first played Fallout, my impression of that was well Fallout kind of has a lot of these like retro futurism elements where it kind of makes things look like things froze culturally in the 50s, and it kind of had that element, and I felt like that was sort of like a dark comedy element to it, because you when you first see him, this ominous ambient noise or kind of like distant wailing is playing. You see this battered HUD that looks like it's survived a bombing or something. So it's real ominous, and this is after the intro where you like see these brutal execution and then the nuclear bomb going off. So to see like this perfectly like this chipper, like happy guy enacting all these different things, it created this contrast that worked really well. So I felt like that was kind of the comic relief. So I don't know if it was really meant to symbolize more than that, but that was my impression just playing it. And for Warhammer 40K, I hadn't heard that Game Workshop denounced them as evil and wrong. I have no idea. Sometimes I've noticed people say things on these internet questions where they get details wrong. So maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but let's assume they did. I think that would just be more like cluelessness rather than parody, because, I mean, my impression of it, I think I said before in the past that Warhammer 40K is far better written than it should be for just a tabletop game. Because there's actually a lot of thought put into it, because yes, it is a brutal, oppressive universe and regime, and there's lots of people live miserable lives. However, the alternative in that universe is so much more horrible because like so for example like an open mind or is highly discouraged, and like ignorance is considered a virtue because on one hand that's generally seen as a good thing to encourage, like, you know, like having an open mind, learning new ideas and advancing things. However, not in the Warhammer 40K universe, because if you get a little too curious, you're going to stumble into opening up demonic portals that will spill into this world and just completely savage the entire planet. So the threat level is so high of having like basic scientific curiosity that this has to be just crushed like culturally within that world. Or or for like my understanding is or like the Imperium needing like this constant supply of like recruits for the army, or supplies where they might work people like slaves, or depending on the planet, or just like lots of conscription where you're probably gonna not live too long. Well, that seems pretty hostile and brutal. However, there's so many enemies of mankind in the Warhammer 40K universe that anything less means they're going to get overrun. So they have to maintain these levels of it. And like you said, it's extremely gray and ambiguous. Like they created a fantasy scenario that actually justifies this brutal, oppressive, dogmatic regime, where they came up with a scenario where this all actually makes sense within that world. So that's why I said it's very it's very interesting from that perspective, because it's just a totally different kind of world. So yeah, it's like if we're kinder within that world, if you're kinder to people, then that's going to mean the downfall or extinction of humanity. So it's because the threats are so high in that. So so that just sounds like cluelessness if that's what they said. But it could, again, I've learned from these chats, like people asking questions about what I said over things I never said. So I don't know if that's like the exact quote. Although I know Games Workshop has not been making has not been making themselves popular because they really cracked down on fan made material to try to push some service they were having. And that, so yeah, it would not shock me if they made some boneheaded statements about it. So yeah, so they're saying Games Workshop are idiots. Yeah, like, or another friend of mine is like big into like classic Warhammer. I remember him saying that, like the look. This was a while back, but basically, he was he was incredibly disappointed with was it like the Age of Sigmar, and like the look on his face was just like half like disbelief, half shock or frustration. When this was around when Total War Warhammer came out, and he was explaining like just how good a representation this game was, like of like the old world Warhammer, for them to and then for them to just blow it all up for Age of Sigmar to have this. Yeah, he described Age of Sigmar to me, and it just kind of sounded kind of like a mess, like a bunch of chaos and a storm with a bunch of ruins and broken. It didn't sound very compelling to me. Like, and I'm not nearly as invested in Warhammer as he was. So it's like, meanwhile, they could have been riding this wave of popularity from the old world from Total War Warhammer. So to be actively kind of moving in a direction against that just was such a bad decision in his eyes. So, I can imagine they're not making good decisions. But yeah, for self-parody, one that came to mind that I remember was, I remember seeing a news a while back that like they made a movie out of the Lorax from Dr. Seuss, and then they used the Lorax for a car commercial to promote the car. Like, and so, yeah, now that is actually approaching self-parody, I think, because the entire message of the lore acts is like, to protect the trees and not destroy everything in cars. And so having the basically the mascot for environmentalism go into a car commercial, yeah, that's becoming parody at that point. Like that is that definitely hits the mark. I think you might be able to argue that like what the Facebook doing the metaverse is kind of getting there because it's what they're doing feels a lot more like what the villain of Ready Player One was doing. So it kind of is approaching uh, parody material there. So yeah, okay, but yeah, that was a pretty good question. Okay, another oranges question. Let's see. Uh, this needs more votes. So Orange asked too many questions. Let's see. Are there any other forms of art you enjoy creating, even if you don't get to do them often? Painting, sculpting, writing, landscaping, etc. Yeah, but I feel like doing the videos mostly scratch my creative itch. Oh yeah, I should have. I actually have some sketches I made. Maybe I'll do that next time. I'm at my mother sent me some that she made when I was a kid. I can draw pretty well if I'm looking at something. From imagination, it's not that great, but so I have some drawings of a shoe I did. I think I picked that when I was young in art class just because it was complex and draw the details. So I could show some drawings I did before, and sketches, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, I don't really feel like a compulsive need for it because I feel like making the videos does a lot of that. However, I do still kind of want to get like a music keyboard and like learn how to play some tracks. Like I think I mentioned before, I'd like to learn how to play Bloody Tears from Castlevania, or maybe the end credits theme from Gabriel Knight, like dun 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 dun. So yeah, there wouldn't really be any use to it. I think I would just kind of enjoy doing that. So I'm really rusty on like piano and keyboard, but I can do a little bit. So let's see. I'm trying to think of. Well, I guess there might be some good Symphony of the Night tracks, but I'm trying to think of like tracks that would have like sound particularly good on the piano. Oh yeah. Oh man. I will link to this, or let me make a note. There's there's an awesome video of this pianist YouTuber where I think he took two harpsichords. He did some real showboating here. He took was it, I think it's called Wood Carving Partita or something. The I think it's like the library track from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Took two harpsichords, sat in between them, and played it on both harpsichords simultaneously, one hand per harpsichord, and it was pretty good. Like it's like dun 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 dun. I'll link to that when I find it. It's awesome. Like, and he's dressed up like in like 18th century clothing. I think he had a wig on. So. Like yeah, when he got to the main yeah, Castlevania has a lot of good tracks that would be good for piano. I think I don't remember his name, but I'm pretty sure there's not many people who did dual harpsichords of Symphony of the Night music and have it came out great. So so yeah, I'd like to get a music keyboard once a little more organized and have a little more free time just to mess around with. But other than that, I'm pretty satisfied making the videos. Although I do kind of want to get to more creative videos rather than just like Freeman's Mind or well, the movie will satisfy a whole lot of creative urge. So okay, Ross, why do you like email so much? Is it the global familiarity with the concept of email, or what? Well, the thing is, I don't like it so much. It's that it just seems like the best tool for the job. Because he's saying preferring it over instant messaging. Okay, I can receive hundreds, if not thousands, of emails. How the hell is that going to work with instant messaging? Or maybe somebody, and plus, instant messaging kind of biases it towards people who are online at the same time. And I guess it kind of, you don't get as much what I call sort of like deep thought emails. Like if somebody has done like a lot of research into a topic and wants to tell me about it, or like has a lot of information for me, that doesn't work as well for some like instant messaging. Plus there's a record of all this stuff. So I am woefully behind on emails again. I'm for sure gonna make some progress this month. I know I've said that a bunch, but I feel like Bullwinkle doing the magic trick, saying this time for sure. You know, I'm not going to catch up on it completely, but I want to knock out several hundred emails this month. Uh, so it's basically if it also ensures that you're kind of communicating to me, because YouTube comments or stuff like that, it's a mess, or stuff like Discord. But no, it's not that I love email. It's just I know I'm not seeing a great alternative. I guess forums can maybe do it, but it might be a little more chaotic for me personally. Yeah, as for not loving email, okay, it is the year 2022, and to the best of my knowledge, there is no email client that exists that is fully skinnable. So what the hell? Like what? It's like we're so advanced in some ways and so just no progress at all in other ways. Like I would love to have a skinnable email client where it feels like well, I kind of talked about this in the GUI video. It feels like I'm in like sort of this video game world I'm typing. Maybe there could be like light, simple animations that aren't too distracting, and people can make their own themes. And it's like I'd really like to make a nicer atmosphere when I'm writing emails. I think that would make me respond to more. So I don't know. It's yeah, it's just not. It's just about the alternatives don't make much sense to me. Like if look, there are absolutely people I want to reply to that I haven't said anything to them for months, some cases years. I'm ashamed of that, but I am gonna get to them. Like if like they send me a really good email, it's like I need to reply to these people. Like that's still in my mind. Like so I want to catch up, and I think other formats don't really look. Better late than never is becoming the story of my life. All right, so it's that's that's my reasoning. Can you talk about your experience playing Subnautica? Can you make a game dungeon about it? Yeah, I missed this question actually. I mean, maybe. I don't know if there would be that much to say that hasn't been settled right. It's just a great atmosphere to it that, it kind of encourages this exploration element. I mean, I think my favorite moment of it was when you discover one of the larger caves and you're like going in deeper and there's all this luminescent plants and you're maybe coming across new sea life and the music's like, well, okay, I'm not gonna try and hum it, but the music's intense going in there. It really creates this kind of otherworldly feeling that I don't get from most games, I'd say. That it just nailed it. So. And there's lots of great environments that just really get that otherworldly feeling. Yeah, I think I've said in the videos, I like that feeling where it feels like I'm deep inside the game world. Subnautica's loaded with that. Oh, he's saying, am I familiar with Pulp Fiction, the genre, not the movie? Did you read any of those stories growing up? I guess not really. I tended to do read a lot more comedy stuff. But like, I don't think this is Pulp Fiction exactly, but I remember one of my favorite books when I was like younger, or like young teenager or something, was the Snark Out Boys and the Baconburg Horror by Daniel Pinkwater. It's like it's like sort of a goofy comedy adventure, but also has a little bit of a horror element to it. So I remember liking that. Okay. Are you familiar with Razor Fist? He's part of the YouTube Long Hair Gang alongside you. Ian from Forgotten Weapons, Metal Jesus Rocks, Alpha Mega Sin, and more. I'm not familiar with Ian from Forgotten Weapons. People mentioned him. I've seen a little bit of Metal Jesus Rocks. I've seen a little bit of Alpha Mega Sin. I've seen a little bit of Razor Fist before, and I remember, yeah, he left kind of a bad impression because, like, one of I think somebody emailed me this. One of the videos he made was, he was basically lambasting the public domain in the video. I think, yeah, the video is called "The Public Domain is an Ass" or something. I mean, it had kind of a clever play on words with it, but, and like, I went back and watched that again because I saw this question, and it was like, it was full. He's basically arguing against public domain, I think, but he left big unanswered questions, and they had contradictory things. And I think he was actually arguing against things he wants, but maybe not realizing it. Okay, so here's some, I made a couple notes on this because I wanted to make sure I got it right. Okay, so right off the bat, he's in favor of dynastic copyright. So in other words, let's say an author writes a story, he thinks you should be able to pass it on to their children, and then they should pass it on to their children, and so on. And I'm not real. My understanding of history is not. It's dynasties tend not to help people overall. But okay, so that's one thing. He says he thinks the copyright lifetime of the author plus 50 years is marginally reasonable. I do not, but the thing is, the alternative is it entering public domain. So it wasn't clear if he thinks public domain is okay under certain circumstances or he's just against it. I mean, the title certainly suggests he's against it. It sounded like he was against companies extending copyright. Like he was pointing out Disney, like as an example, and saying it'd be, but like the same laws that allow the company to extend the copyright would be applied to individuals. Like, I mean, he didn't seem to distinguish it. So that's what I was saying. I'm like, it's unclear what exactly he wanted from this. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, the part that really got me was at one point. Oh yeah, this was the part that like I'm like, what is he even doing? Where he's saying, okay, he said the reason copyright lasts so long. Okay, he uses more colorful language, but I had to rewatch this because I was like, I almost thought like, did I miss something? Well, like what? He says the reason copyright lasts so long is because public domain advocates want regulations for copyright to enter public domain. No joke. Like this is like, it makes no sense what he's saying there. But at the same time, he's like saying you because you want this. And he's pointing and referring to people who want things to enter public domain. So like, wait a minute. Why would laws or regulations that public domain advocates want copyright to enter public domain at some point, why would that cause copyright to go longer? Like, that's not what what. And then he like links to an article while he's saying that. I went and looked at the article. Maybe I missed it, but it didn't seem to say anything about that. So it's like, I think he really hasn't thought through what he's talking about. Like, and then here's some other Meyer stuff where he was talking about, again, maybe this was just an example, but maybe this was just how he edited it together and it wasn't what he meant. But the takeaway is that he's equating GDP with human advancement, and that's not such a great metric, I think. And yeah, he argues that intellectual property rights seem to be like one of the core reasons for the Industrial Revolution, because I think, I'm not a historian, but I think that'd be a hard sell. Like, I think there's a lot of different things that contributed to that. I would put the number one reason for the Industrial Revolution would be the use of fossil fuels, because that unlocks so many options for what's possible. But I don't know, like he was kind of conflating that, but that was a minor thing. But the thing is, if you're against, and he was making arguments about how once things enter the public domain, companies have no reason to be interested in them, and they're kind of garbage after that. And he uses Wizard of Oz as an example to say that, like, okay, when was Wizard of Oz a bigger deal? Now, after it's entered public domain, or during the 40s when it's still protected under copyright? And I was thinking, well, not only is that not a great example in my opinion, but I can think of it a really big counterexample. But for Wizard of Oz, okay, that was one of the first color movies. And yes, people tend to be interested more in things that are new, and it was much newer back in the 40s. So I think you have to separate that variable from it being public domain in order to like really support your argument. And I have a very strong counter argument. The Francis Ford Coppola version of Dracula, that is like decades and decades after Dracula entered public domain. And while this is a subjective thing, for me personally, that is the best Dracula movie. That's one of the best vampire movies. That is so good. I think it was like 92 or 93, somewhere around there. It's like, and that was like just way after public domain. And like in fact, I've read Dracula. I would say the movie version is even though they took a few creative liberties with the story, I'd say that's the best way to experience Dracula. Like if you haven't read the book, like you're kind of curious about it, if you just want the full Dracula experience, watch that one. It's like the best, in my opinion. And that's already in public, and that is in public domain. And another example I thought of was the 90s version of the Odyssey. It was sort of it was technically a miniseries. It's more like a 3-hour long movie. It was pretty good. I like a pretty great portrayal of it. I mean, again, not perfect. And yeah, the Odyssey's been in public domain since forever. So it's just, but I guess what kills me is that like he's arguing this stuff. I mean, I guess he's either kind of ignorant of some of the situation or he just hasn't thought it through. But like he's a big gamer. So it's like, does he not understand like how copyright is how the public domain stuff is being applied in gaming? Because it sounds like he's like a staunch supporter of copyright, like full stop. Well, if that's your stance, you would have to logically, if the view's consistent, be against all abandonware. And because abandonware is not legal, it's just that most of the right holders don't care enough to do anything about it, so it stays up there. Well, if you're a strict Copyright Act advocate, then you want all that shut down, and that's thousands of games. So that's like the destruction of No, somebody's saying it's legally gray. No, well, not in the United States, it's not. I mean, maybe in other countries. No, it is not legal. Like, it's, if the copyright has not expired, putting it up there, that is an illegal activity. Now, however, it's not enforced. So, or largely not enforced. So it's kind of it's not a legal gray area. It's just not very much enforced, so that's why it stays up. So you can kind of skirt around it. But no, if you're going to court, like abandonware, like if the rights holders decide to crack down on abandonware, they would have to buckle immediately from legality. So yeah, that's like thousands. And then the like let's say things entered public domain after like, let's say like 10, 20 years. Well, then that might save some more of these games. Like, I mean, you know, my big thing is like against game death. Well, if it entered the public domain, like the source code and everything after a certain time period, well, that would save so many games and then take so many off the risk list. Like, I think, like, see, part of the video is him arguing against people who are against copyright 100%. And like, yeah, I think I can imagine copyright not being necessary, but that's not the reality we're in. Like, I think if you want to make the argument that copyright shouldn't exist, then you first have to solve problems of everyone, of like food, shelter, basic needs, and everything being like guaranteed for everyone. Because if you don't do that, then you're basically removing ways for a lot of people to support themselves, and that can then that creates like more severe problems, I think. But like it sounded like it wasn't clear in a lot of video. It sounds like he's arguing against public domain and just. And I think I know what was kind of happening. Well, he kind of says at the beginning that he's not arguing this from a utilitarian perspective. And he says he kind of hates that. He's arguing it. Yeah, he's saying he's arguing this because it's moral and therefore it's good. And when you take an absolutist stance on, see, I'm the opposite. I tend to be much more utilitarian. I'm kind of looking at like, okay, well, what are the rules and what are the results? If the results are good, then I don't really have a problem with the rules. If the results are have a lot of problems, well, then maybe we need to change the rules, is my approach to thing. And I think, and that's a very debatable thing as to whether just like he's saying intellectual property is an inalienable right and moral and good. It's like, well, yeah, you sometimes, but if you take an app, like I was trying to think of an example, and like let's say you crash, like you're shipwrecked and you end up on an island, and one person brought a water filter with them, water purifier with them, and there's no source of water on the island, so all you have is seawater. So that's the only source of water, and that person, it's his property, and he does not feel like sharing it. Like let's say he doesn't like the other people. Like let's say there's 5 other people, he doesn't like them. So no, this is my water filter, and I'm not going to share it. Well, to argue that, I see, from my perspective, it's like, well, no, you're putting property rights over somebody's survival. So in that case, I don't see it as an absolute moral good. And I think if they took it by force from you in that scenario, I think that would be totally justifiable, because you're literally putting property rights above people's lives in that. And in fact, I remember getting an argument in my forums a few years back where the person I was arguing with, I was like, well, wait a minute, how far are they taking this ideology? And what they came down to saying was, if they were, this is a totally hypothetical scenario, but if there was a meteor coming to crash into the earth, and they were in charge of the company that, for whatever reason, the governments weren't ready for this, but they had a company that could like deflect the meteor and get it out of the harm's way. And they were the only people who could do that. Or maybe if that person chose, like, you know what? I don't really like people on Earth. I'm just gonna chill in my space station, maybe bring a couple people I do like with me, and I'm just gonna let the meteor hit the Earth, and it's up to them. He was okay with that scenario if it didn't violate property rights. So you get into kind of crazy conclusions if you. I'm not saying Razor Fist believes that, but I think that's kind of where he was coming from. I think he was working from the conclusion that intellectual property is good, therefore it's the best answer to everything flowing out from that. Whereas I think that's a flawed premise. Logic is only as good as your assumed truths. So when you take an absolutist stance, there's usually exceptions. And in gaming, my God, I mean, how many games would be at risk for destruction if copyright law, as it is right now, was completely respected? And and how many ones that have already died because it's being respected? It's yeah. Somebody's saying the all or nothing mindset doesn't work in most of life. Yeah, I think it doesn't. Well, I mean, it just depends on the scenario. But again, we might be diametrically opposed on that sort of thing, because I think you'd be against a lot of what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm totally in favor of abandonware. He would probably be completely against the Dream software I'm doing, because yeah, that probably would violate copyright in order to maximize its use. Now, ironically, it's who knows. He might actually still be on board for what I said in the games as a service video, because it's hard to say, because that is basically a violation of consumer law. So yeah, there is the copyright. So the question is, are you putting copyright and intellectual property rights above consumer rights? Because that would violate the consumer's property rights also. So he might still be on board with that. I don't know, but it just I watched that video, and I mean he's very convincing in a stylistic manner, but I feel like he just hasn't thought out a lot of what he's saying, and it felt very contradictory. Like, if you were to follow these thoughts through. So I don't know. It's yeah. Somebody's saying with Razor Fist to do what you had described, it'd almost be like betraying something that you had cared about in the first place from the logic that was described. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there can be a logic to it. It's just the logic might not be what they're saying. The logic could be, well, let's say I like games and I like games being preserved, but I like property rights more. And if that's your stance, well, then it might be consistent. But then, even then, some of his arguments I think didn't really hold up. So yeah, and in some ways he might be my nemesis because I'm absolutely in favor of game preservation. And great if it follows the rules and copyright law works out. And if it doesn't, I consider the game not being destroyed to be the greater good over respecting the property rights of people who have demonstrated over and over again that they do not care about the property that they own, or the consumers they're selling it to. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I can't say I'm a fan based on what I've seen of him. I mean, he probably has much better takes on music. I noticed in some of his outros, I was recognizing some of the songs that he had. So, yeah, and he has a cool style to him. But yeah, if his other videos are like that, I'd say you could almost use his videos as tests for logical thinking and critical analysis. Like, okay, what is he doing here? Does this argument hold up? Okay, this one does, but then it's used to jump to this argument, and that's not actually what this support. So his videos would be great for logic tests, I think. It's okay, quiz. So let's analyze where is the logic hold up? Where does it not? It's. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of the other stuff, but that was the one I was exposed to, and it was so. It's like he's trying to argue that Yeah, yeah. It's like he's trying to argue that we're not pushing hard enough on a system that's already destroying games. Like we need to destroy more games. Is the That's not what he's saying, but that's the conclusion from what he's saying. You know. Uh, but yeah, the part again, the part that just blew my mind was that people who want things to enter the public domain or enter it sooner are the reason things do not enter the public domain. What? I mean, maybe he meant. I can totally understand because I've done this myself, where he maybe meant to have an extra line in there and then forgot about it and just said, "Ah, screw it, I'll put it up anyway." So that it would have made sense, but the way it didn't, it's like saying they'll be like saying, what? Environmentalists are the reason companies pollute. What? You know, like it just you can say that in a very convincing way, but that's a big claim. You really need to back that up. So okay, I should move on. But yeah, I thought I'd address that. Yeah, and like on his channel, there's like a ton of political videos that it's it struck me as more the kind of the same thing where like where again they would make fantastic like if you're teaching a logic or a critical thinking class, they would make fantastic videos for that to like, okay, let's apply what we learned. What okay, is this if this is true? Yeah, if like you know like if X is true and X equals Y is what applies to Y is true. It would be there'd be great quizzes for that, I think. So okay. Yeah, actually for the yeah, Alpha Mega Sin, I watched some of his videos. Yeah, he had a cool style too. And I think he just kind of disappeared off of YouTube or something. Like I think I maybe heard like the stress got to him, which I can totally understand, or maybe it's just something I heard. I don't know, but yeah, Alpha Omega Sin. He actually looks a lot like one of my friends from high school. Like not exact, but I'm definitely like the facial structure, and he had long hair too. It's pretty similar. So okay, which game do you think will release first? Star Citizen, Half-Life 3, Elder Scrolls 6, or Dead Island 2? Um, I have to say, okay, I'm just gonna guess. I'd say Dead Island 2, and second would be Elder Scrolls 6. That would be my guess. Okay, let's see. Previous game said you mentioned in the song "Them Bones" by Alice in Chains. I'm trying to remember which one that is. Is that from Brutal Planet? You're saying, what is your opinion on the band and 90s grudge scene in general? I need to catch up, but like, again, like, with that. Oh no, Alice in Chains, not Alice Cooper. Oh yeah, well yeah, yeah, but that's the Doom one. That's the one that like, yeah, let's change a couple notes. Now it's the song. Now it's a song in Doom, and um, yeah, Alice in Chains I need to listen more of, but 90s grunge scene in general, I like a lot of the music from that era. That's something I need to catch up on. I think I mentioned before, I what when I was finally going through all of Beavis and Butthead, whenever a band came up that like, yeah, I like this, I just wrote it down. So that's one of those things I'm eventually gonna get to. You know, just catch up completely on music. Well, not completely, but 90% of where I want to be. Oh, okay. I missed this question, and it's one I have to think about. What are some of the biggest questions you have for the developers of any games from Game Dungeon? I guess I don't have a lot. I mean, part of me likes, part of me enjoys having the mystery of it. So, well, I guess I am kind of curious about Polaris Snowcross. Like, did anyone legitimately beat the PC copy? Like the yeah. In fact, I found out there's more than one PC copy. The Infograms one, Grams or however it's pronounced. Did anyone actually? Am I the first person to like beat that? I mean, I'd be curious, or if they just said like, yeah, no, we didn't have time to test it. We just put it out the door and hope for the best, you know. I'm sure there'll be other questions, but I didn't have time to think about this one. Uh, okay, Half-Life Blue Shift and Opposing Force have been picked up by a new team and is back in development. Have they or the previous team reached out to you to lend your voice? Not that I'm aware of, but that's fine by me. So it's Freeman. Freeman, you don't hear him say anything. Is Freeman even in Blue Shift? I don't remember. Wait, yeah, you're playing. Yeah, you're playing Barney in Blue Shift, I guess. Yeah. I think you see Freeman at the beginning on the tram. Yeah. You see, I think yeah, that's right. For Blue Shift. Okay. Okay. They're saying that yeah, sometimes the creator hypes up their magnum opus because the creator put his soul to it and the reception is not as good as expected. The creator never really recovers and loses interest in general. In case the movie just turns out to be just okay, we have the strength to keep going. Well, I think I'm certain it'll be more than okay, but by my standards, I think. But put it like this: I think it's going to be more than okay because even to the audience, I think even if people don't like it, they won't think it was like, oh, I don't think it'll create a, it's okay reaction. I think some people will be like, whoa. And other people will be like, this is too clunky and weird. Like, or it was just, it, I'm not expecting a lot of like ho hum reaction to it. I can see people not liking it, especially because of the machinima format, or it's just something about it throws it off for them. But I don't think it'll be okay. But as for strength to keep going, when it comes to animation, I have no idea. I could maybe never want to animate again after the movie. That's a risk. But I think I will want to keep making videos. But yeah, I'll find out with animation. But yeah, I think it'll be better because yeah, he's mentioning examples. Okay, well, I don't know what the China IL show, the Angry Video Game their movie. I do know, but see that's kind of a different style where the okay video game starters like Mighty Number Nine Ukulele. Well, a game development's different. Like that's hard to say. Well, both Mighty Number Nine Ukulele, they're kind of trying to do the same thing they've done before, just like a reimagining of it, kind of. And Angry Video Game, their movie, it was kind of more tongue in cheek, and like with I feel like Angry Video Game Nerd is his strength was he'll be playing a game and then you're just seeing the crap in the game that like triggers the anger of it and just weird things can happen in the middle of it, and that's a strong point. Whereas making a movie out of that, it's not as good a fit, I think, for movie format. My I'll say this on the movie. my movie is gonna, it's not, I don't plan to make it tongue in cheek. Like, I'm not gonna be, like, I think one of the worst things you can do for like a big sort of like independent creator is have like lots of in jokes and like callbacks and think what we're or just stuff that downplays it so that like fans will recognize and have something to chuckle over. Whereas I think like what you need to do first and foremost is this entertaining? Are people interested in the story? Like, are these interesting characters? Like, how's the performance? Like, so it's like that's what you gotta do. Like number one. So I don't know necessarily of all these other examples. Well, again, game development's different. Like it's just kind of different from a movie. Yeah, somebody's saying you're trying to make a real movie. Yes, exactly. Like, I'm gonna make the sort of movie I would want to watch, and it wouldn't have. I mean, it's gonna have a lot of comedy, but it's gonna like the comedy within the context of the plot. You know, again, a very different movie, but I'm thinking of like stuff like comedy adventures, sort of like the '80s. Like I'm thinking of stuff like maybe Ghostbusters or Inner Space, or some other comedy adventures. The good ones are kind of rare, I think. Well, okay, yeah, it's definitely probably not gonna be like this. Like Back to the Future, that's another comedy adventure. I'm not saying it's gonna have that level of craftsmanship. Probably won't. Um, but like that same ballpark of movie where it is a comedy, but it also is an adventure, and they're kind of like not trying to undercut it too much with the with what they're doing. Like, see with comedy, see an adventure, you kind of can have the what you have some sort of peril or something exciting happen or a danger, and what you don't want to do is have the comedy undercut that threat, in my opinion. So it's like if the characters are scared of something, they need to be, you need to treat that as real and not make that a joke. You know, I mean, you can have funny stuff within the context of it, but they shouldn't, like the situation needs to be treated seriously by the characters and the audience. It's just that you can work into all these funny situations along the way that can kind of weave into it. So yeah, somebody's mentioned Crocodile Dundee too, but well, Indiana Jones is more adventure than comedy. Indiana Jones has comic relief here and there, but Indiana Jones is much more like solid adventure. But yeah, but Indiana Jones has moments like that. Well, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the best scenes is when he takes out the gun and shoots the sword wielder, and it just has this pained expression on his face, because that totally works within the context of the movie, because it's like, here's a threat, just screw it, bam, you know. So it's you gotta have stuff like that. Like, you need to be smart about where you insert the comedy, in my opinion. So, yeah, and I think that might be the problem a lot of like fan projects have, is that they're not trying to like, they can kind of undercut the other strengths with the comedy. So, okay. Just get a few more questions, and well, it says I'm about halfway, but I might start getting pickier. Okay, Ross, how do your taxes work? I didn't see this either. Do you have to pay taxes for both USA and Poland? How is that divided up? Okay, I'm a self-employed expat. The way it works is I do not pay U.S. taxes unless I were to earn more than like a ridiculous amount. And I think it's like 107,000, something like that. So no danger at all of that happening. I don't have to pay U.S. taxes. Instead, I think it's like a 2555 form. It might be a different number. I fill out that form to exempt those taxes. I pay them in Poland. But because I'm self-employed, you still, even though you're living in another country, like throughout the whole year, yeah, if I were to set foot back in the United States for like one day, that would change my taxes and I would have to pay some taxes back to the US again. But because I'm self-employed, I still owe, I think, like what, 15% on self-employment tax. So, however, because I'm in Poland, they have a totalization agreement which shows that if you're basically paying the Polish equivalent of Social Security, you can exempt that. If you get documents from the Polish tax office, I have to attach that like every single year showing that I've been paying Polish Social Security. And like the first year, I couldn't figure out how to do that, and I basically paid double taxes. And even then, if you're in a country that does not have this totalization agreement, you basically owe double taxes if you're self-employed, and or maybe not double, but like 150% taxes. So like you're, because you might still be able to exempt your normal income, but then you still owe the self-employment tax back to the United States. Like I think I think it's the U.S. and I don't know how to pronounce it. It's an African country, Eritrea. So, sorry, I'm ignorant on that. I think they're the only other country that does this. Now, if I was working at like a normal employer job here, I could do that and have it all be exempt. Again, up to 107,000, which is just silly. However, even if you were earning over $107,000 a year, you have an alternative to have another way where you don't exempt any of your taxes, but you can deduct the taxes you do pay in another country. So let's say you were in a country that had like really high taxes. It might make more sense to do that, but if you do that, then you forfeit your option to just exempt all your income for like 5 years or something. It's like 4 years. I don't know why the hell they added that. But I guess that example probably works better if you had something like stocks and you had like passive income from that, where I think that may not be exempt under the Form 2555 or whatever. Or maybe it's 1116. I forget the numbers. Of normal income. Like, so you could still have like money you earn exempted, but then like if you had like tax earnings from stocks or something, then you might still owe like quarterly taxes on that to the United States and maybe to Poland too. I don't know. But it's like, geez, yeah, I don't have stocks. So in fact, that's probably like the number one. You know, I thought before about maybe experimenting a little bit with it. That's like the number one deterrent for me. It's like my taxes are already like 11 pages each year. It used to be more like 7, but then they did the Tax Paperwork Reduction Act, which led to me having to fill out more forms. Yeah, that's an example of self-parody, you know. It's like all they did was take the 1040 and chop it up into like multiple forms pretty much. So if you needed those extra sections, then you had to fill in more forms. But so yeah, there's 2 ways of doing it for deducting your taxes. But yeah, you'd have to be, the totalization agreement, that didn't go into effect. I got lucky. That didn't go into effect in Poland until 2009. And I first moved here in 2011. So before that, I pretty much would have had like either double or basically 150% taxes. If I was staying here, I might not have been able to afford it. Unless I were to renounce my citizenship, which is pretty drastic. Plus, if you're going by the letter of the law, you're not allowed to renounce your citizenship for tax purposes. So you'd have to come up with another reason. But the other thing is, geez, there was something else. So, oh yeah, it took me forever to figure out how to enact the totalization, because maybe there's a process, maybe it's well documented now, but back in like 2011, 2012, it was not. I searched the entire frigging internet, And every place I saw, they said, well, if you live in another country with these totalization agreements, you can deduct the self-employment tax if you provide evidence you're paying for it elsewhere. And I could not find any single mention anywhere of how you declare this. Like nothing. No IRS instruction form, nothing anywhere. So what I did is, I guess the planets aligned and I was able to get through to the IRS. I asked them, well, how do I do this? I couldn't find information on it. I said, oh, just write it on the form. So I was like, okay. So from an official IRS agent told me that the official way to declare the totalization, at least from a few years ago, that's how I've been doing it since, is to just write it on the form and like attach a note or something. Like that's the official process for declaring that this income is exempt. So yeah, so for me personally, I'm paying all Polish taxes. Ross, you need to fill out the blue forms. Maybe. Let's see. There's something else I was gonna say, but I'm losing it. Yeah, you write it on the form. Oh yeah, I learned something not long ago. Like this summer, I got a letter from the IRS. I was thinking, uh-oh. And apparently I forgot to fill out my signature on it. So I was thinking, oh, shoot. Like I must have printed out the forms and just forgotten to sign it. I thought I did that, but I guess not. And then I looked, well, wait a minute. Like these aren't for my 2020 taxes. These are for my 2019 taxes. So the IRS, it was just now getting around to processing my 2019 taxes. So I thought you guys might find that interesting. So sounds like they're a bit behind also. That it's, yeah, man, I'll end this by saying, you know, I had an accounting class in high school, and I remember I ended up procrastinating a lot of work on that because I just hate accounting. Like, it's like I don't downplay its necessity. I just hate doing it. I mean, I'm capable. It just rubs my brain just the worst way. And I remember, so I put off a lot of work, but I knew I could do it. It was just going to be a pain. So I remember just kind of binge doing all the work that had stacked up that I had homework on in high school. And I remember at the end of that, I finally understood why some people would want to take hard drugs. Because like to me, it never made sense prior to that. And then at the end of that, like, okay, I understand now. You know, so that's what accounting does to me. So, okay, somebody has like I'll answer a quick question from the chat because it sounds like they put some thought into it. They have bad anxiety troubles about creatively speaking. Been propositioned for commissions and things doing art fights with others and having consistently awkward, rejected out of fear of becoming too real. It's just becoming somewhat more appealing to me. If you have an important idea or mindset, you keep balancing passion with paycheck to avoid burnout and losing that spark for what you love. It sounds sort of like two different questions. Well, I mean, I try to make sure I don't hand you garbage, you know, but it sounds like the fear of it becoming too real or anxiety. You know, you could just, if it's just going to be too hard for you to deal with, I mean, no joke, what you might want to try, maybe get a friend to just put it out into if like the anxiety is just too high, do your best at something. And then like, if the feedback isn't necessary for you, just shut it out. Don't even look at it. And maybe get a friend to look at it to kind of filter through it for you. And they can pass along the nicer criticisms or just the compliments and just block it out if you can't handle it. Like, because my wife has a lot of anxieties too. So I was trying to think of, well, what would I suggest in that situation. You know, maybe you could try something like that. But yeah, balancing passion with a paycheck. That was a problem I had when I was working at Machinima. Is like the advice they gave was that you kind of just had to not care too much about what you were working on. And I was thinking I didn't in order to like not struggle with it mentally. And I was thinking, well, that's not what I want to do. I mean, if it's something I don't really care about, okay, but I kind of don't really want that as my art projects then or creative stuff. I mean, if I'm working on, like when I was doing computer repair, I mean, like, yeah, I might want to make sure it's repaired for the customer, but if they don't care about me going the extra mile, I'm not going to go the extra mile on something. So then I won't worry about it. Or it's like, you know what? I bet they might have problems in another month or two because this was caused by spyware and we're not installing more spyware protection, but whatever. It'll work when it leaves the shop, so I don't get paid extra for this. Yeah, it's like I need kind of clear dividing lines about whether how much I care about something or not. So I'm not good at balancing that. Well, I mean, I really don't want to make the editor who had an attempt on the division feel bad, but like I would have felt bad like releasing it if you'd done all the editing, because it just it would have been a worse experience, I think, for everyone. It was, yeah. I don't want to make him feel bad though. He definitely gave it his best effort. Let's see. Okay, yeah, more questions. Jeez, I'm getting distracted. Okay, sorry, this was too far down. Although this has more points than earlier. I don't understand the Reddit sorting here. They're asking, what do I think Multiverse Ross would be up to? I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking back to that movie, The One. So the Multiverse Ross could be pretty different. I think Clone Ross I could get along with, and we could get a whole lot done, even if we had different backgrounds. But Multiverse Ross, I mean, who knows, you know? I guess somebody's asking God, why NFTs? And I misread this at first because I thought they were saying NTFS. In my life, NTFS has much more relevance to what I do than NFTs, because that's a file format for hard drives. Yeah, I don't get it. Like it's come up more and more, and I still don't I don't get it. Okay, the only angles I get this from are like I've heard someone explain to me how it can. I got mixed. I got lost on the details, but somebody explained to me how it can be used for art fraud, and I lost the details. But like the basic idea was, like, let's say you're cooperating with somebody and you pay them $100,000 for their NFTs, but then you say on your taxes it's worth $500,000, but then there's some way to dance around that so that it's not detectable. I don't know. So maybe it's used for art fraud, might be number one. For number two, I'm sure if you can get people interested in it, there's probably money to be made there. So it's probably for kind of entrepreneurial hustlers, like, you know, just trying to find any angle to make money. Beyond that, I don't really get it, because like when gaming companies say they're interested in this, okay, let's take a completely cynical view. Why would you want NFTs over just having your own game economy set up? Because aren't NFTs going to be like way more resource intensive and like take more from the company to even run or maintain? I mean, even if you even if you didn't want all the server load, couldn't you have more like peer-to-peer stuff? Man, I mean, like, doesn't Blizzard already do that for like the downloads for World of Warcraft? It's like run by peer-to-peer, or like hosting for some games is peer-to-peer. I mean, it just seems really inefficient if you just want to run like a game economy or something. Yeah, I mentioned before, like Path of Exile had one. In Secret World, I could trade items. You know, they had their own auction house, and you could post it and like trade items like that. Like for me, what it feels like is like since there is money for a few to be made for a few people, they're trying so hard to push this artificial scarcity and what's basically free. It's basically unlimited resources environment. You know, digital. You can copy something as many times as you want. So I just don't get how they're able to maintain that illusion beyond that. Like, I mean, I hardly know. I'm hardly an expert on NFTs. So I mean, maybe companies are interested in it because it's as simple as it being a buzzword. So like, you know, marketing people have to do something to earn their keep. A CEO doesn't really understand NFTs, but they understand finances involved and trading. NFTs, it makes the company look like coming up with something hot and fresh and looking relevant. So maybe it's as simple as that this is just a marketing buzzword trend. So that's why some game companies are interested in it because it's something new. So therefore we can push it and we can make money on it, even though it's not the best tool for the job. And I mean, I guess NFTs might have more security for the transaction than like specifically designed in-game economy, but I would think the advantages of just coding the game economy yourself, like for your game, would just still outweigh it. You could come up with more security measures. So, but it just like I guess I'm not surprised somebody's tried to do this. I'm surprised it's maintaining as much traction as it is. Because again, if my understanding of it is some forces are trying really hard to push the idea of artificial scarcity in an unlimited resources environment. Because if that catches on, yeah, there's an ungodly amount of money to be made from it. But it's like you know, that's one thing I do like about like with games as a service. I feel like I'm probably losing the messaging battle that it's not necessary to have company support for an online only game. There are ways of doing it so that you can run it even if the company dies. I think, especially the younger generation, especially most people, they're never going to get that, because they've never known anything else. However, it does still seem to be the belief, even among the average gamer, that there's no good reason a single player game should have to connect online, should have to be online only. So if it's single player only, why the hell is this online only? So I feel like this would be like trying to introduce online only gaming for a strictly single player game and having like no real advantages to it that you couldn't just code in already, and trying to hype people to get on board with that. And thankfully there seems to be pushback, but okay, somebody's saying nobody mentions electronic signing process. That's basically the same thing. Yes, yeah, I don't know enough of the details on it, but I have to imagine that would be, you could do that in a much less resources intensive way. Yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, yeah, maybe maybe it is just kind of like a money laundering or art fraud thing, and then that's and people, hustlers looking to make a buck, because yeah, I mean that's maybe that's literally the only traction it has, but it's, again, I am surprised it's getting as much traction as it is and that it's staying, because I mean, there's scams and grifts that'll come and go, but this one seems more transparent than that. Like it's like, well, you know, why is this still being talked about like 6 months later? You know what I mean? Like there was that, what was that that juice device? I forgot the name of it, where it had to dial in to the company server in order to open a juice packet, whereas all you really had to do was just take a knife and open the juice packet. Yeah, Juicero. Thanks. See, this strikes me like that. Yeah, let's hype it up. Like, here we go. Or some of the crypt. Yeah, I think BitConnect that had the big hyping up. But see, kind of Juicero. Well, I think Juicero is absolutely historically significant because it's basically a manifestation of what games are trying to do. Um, it came and went. People weren't really getting on board like month after month for this thing, or copycat companies and like really moving. So I guess I guess it's yeah. I'm surprised NFTs haven't gone that route. Like, yeah, it gets hyped up until people see what it is, and then it loses all its steam because it's there's no advantage for the consumer. But and there's a lot of drawbacks. But yeah, maybe it is like the laundering and art yeah, or tax fraud thing that's kind of keeping it popular. Also, it's hard to say. It could be that like the people hyping up NFTs and involved in it are all quite wealthy, and this is like kind of like an additional game. Like I heard, like I think we're kind of economically we're kind of moving more and more towards have and have-nots. So the have, like I've heard there's like a narrative that like the people who have money, like lots of money, are trying to are becoming kind of bored and like, what do they spend this money on? So it can take things to weird places. Like I've heard there's this pattern now of like wealthy people wanting to transport really old trees to their lawns as sort of like a status symbol thing. Except sometimes the trees are too big to be moved by conventional means, so they'll actually cut them up, then like reassemble them at the source, even though that might kill the tree. I think I read that like Michael Jordan did something like that. So yeah, so maybe NFTs or something like this, where maybe the people involved don't really understand what it is, but the hype is working with it. So I don't know. It's so we might see more weird things like that where these are rich people games. Okay, so yeah, it just makes no sense at all to me outside of that. Like I just can't. I'm like it doesn't even make sense to me from like a company perspective, like a game company perspective, except for this is something we can market at hype, so we'll do that because that's all our company is. and and the public arm of our company is utterly divorced from our developers actually trying to make good games. So this is what we end up with. Like, that's all I'm coming up with. But I'm hardly an NFT expert. I would not invest in NFTs even if I was filthy rich. Like, it wouldn't make sense to me even then. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I kind of want to skip more questions now. They're asking if my job has changed much because of the pandemic. Not really, because I was working remotely on everything already to begin with. What's mostly changed is like kind of my habits, where I go out to get groceries, I go out to get exercise, and that's about it. So, what kind of people would you be looking for in your new town after the apocalypse happens? Well, yeah, I wouldn't even want to be running my own town, but I guess people who, I guess agreeable people, you know, I guess you'd want at least, well, not necessarily agreeable, like they could be kind of standoffish, but well, what I mean by agreeable, they don't necessarily have to have an agreeable nature, but people who are sort of on the same page for like what's important, like food, shelter, that sort of thing. Uh, like I'm also thinking, you'd probably want at least one person who's like really good at like long-term logistics and planning and like for supplies. So if they know, so you want to, if you're going to have serious trouble, you want to know this 6 months or more in advance. And like, so that we're solving problems that are coming like a year from now, like now, that sort of thing. But geez, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, and I guess people who aren't like high functioning psychopaths and looking to dismantle everything, that I probably wouldn't want people like that. In fact, I feel like any ideology or system of organization, I feel like that's what can tear down almost all of them, like high functioning psychopaths. I guess I've heard. Okay, I might be wrong. I've heard psychopaths are when like the actual literal definition is when you literally have no conscience. Like it's just not even possible for you. Whereas sociopaths, it's more complicated. But most people use sociopaths to mean psychopaths. I don't know. But what's your opinion on tracker key gen music? Yeah, I think that a lot of it's great. That's another thing I want to catch up on. I'm eating donuts right now. Do you like donuts? I love donuts, but they frighten me because a lot of sweets I can eat several of them and then feel like, okay, I've had enough sweets, and then stop. Donuts almost feel like the infinity food where I just feel like I could keep eating more of these and keep eating more of these and keep eating more of these. Like so, it's I'm fearful of their power. Okay. Somebody's asking about Planescape Torment. I still need to finish Planescape Torment. It's the top of my list for kind of like story-based games I'm interested in. I'm probably more interested in Planescape Torment for the story rather than the gameplay. So that's definitely one I'm going to get around to. I played a ways. I got the Tiefling joined my party, and like I got through the collective rat people, but I think I still even have my saves. Let's see. Have you seen a game called The Fermi Paradox on Steam? I guess not. Good game about getting alien civilizations to unite. Okay, well, maybe I can look into it. Is the Fermi Paradox the one where that the reason we haven't encountered intelligent life is because, like, in order for like an intelligent civilization to be like dominant, it has to have like a certain level of aggression, but then that level of aggression works against it as society gets more developed. So they end up like kind of undermining themselves so that they kind of wipe themselves out before we ever hear about them. Is that it? Like, okay, is it between the lack of clear, obvious evidence, extraterrestrial life, and various high estimates for their existence? Oh, his life is so easy, someone from somewhere would have come calling by now. Okay, well, I guess where does the paradox come in? Because it could just be we're just lucky and we're the only. I mean, it's for all we know. I mean, life is such a mystery. For all we know, we're the only life in the universe. The universe is so incredibly huge, that's probably not the case. But if there's so many stars and planets around, how come no one's contacted us yet? Well, that's not really, it's a paradox, because again, the universe is incredibly huge. The speed of light is only so fast. So unless they figured out space bending technology, or have a better understanding of unlocked secrets of physics we don't know about, that's not really a paradox. It's just, it's too friggin' huge. Well, what am I thinking of then? The idea that maybe the reason, like the paradox is, in order to be the dominant life form to develop, you need a certain level of aggressiveness. But then that level of aggressiveness, once you're developed, undermines your societies. So instead of building utopia, you're going to war with your neighbor. Whereas that same aggressiveness is what made your species survive over another one thousands of years ago. Well, I think there's a term for that too. What's the name of that? I'm sure somebody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, The Outer Wilds is on my 2 playlist. I'm gonna wait till that one gets cheaper, or maybe I can get maybe it comes out in GOG. I can get it then. So I guess I'm wondering where is the Great Filter. Maybe okay, so that maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know. Well, where does the paradox? Well, okay, I'll look this up afterwards, but I'm failing to see where the paradox comes into the Fermi paradox. If it's just that, why haven't they contacted us if they exist? Distance is a pretty good. Nothing paradoxical about distance. I mean, yeah, if an alien civilization is millions of light years away from this, that's a pretty damn good reason we have no contact with them, you know? Okay, well, I'll keep moving on. I'll try and look into the game, see if it's qualifies for my games list. Have you read, watched, listened to anything good for the past months? I didn't look at it as much. What? Okay, I finished that book, Odds Against Tomorrow. It ended up kind of falling apart. It wasn't that great, I think. It started off better than it ended up. It's basically some guy who's really good at predicting the future from looking at all these statistics. A disaster happens, and then he has some like mental break, and it just wants to go native. That's basically it. Like, if you've seen, like, the bottom half of that book felt like the movie, or I guess the book too. I haven't read the book. The Mosquito Coast with Harrison Ford, and it just felt kind of depressing and like a guy just not coming to terms with reality, kind of having a mental breakdown. I haven't decided what book I'm going to start on next. I was just sort of catching up on some news. For movies, okay, well, I saw this one just recently. I don't know if I'd recommend this, but it's 100% a movie worth watching, I think, if you're in the right state of mind for it. Was it Don't Look Up? And this was a rough movie to watch. Because I would compare it. It's like the general plot is a comet's coming to crash into Earth that could end life, but we're having trouble getting our act together to approach this in a sane way. It's sort of like a little bit like Idiocracy, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of the movie Wag the Dog, if you've seen that. That's a movie a lot about media influence. But the movie was more believable than it should have been. And like, I had to watch it in like 20-minute chunks or something because it was just too frustrating. And even then I was like skipping some parts. Not because it was bad, but it's because it was like a little too close to home. There's a really great test to see if you'll enjoy this movie or not. I think we mentioned it before on the video chat. There's this YouTube video called The Expert. I think it's the name of it, about this guy who's being tasked to draw these perpendicular lines under certain parameters. If you enjoy that video and thought it was hilarious, then you should absolutely go watch Don't Look Up. If you found that video painful because it's a little too close to home for people you've dealt with or people you know, then you might have a rough time watching Don't Look Up because it's a very similar kind of humor. I mean, it's a very good movie, though. I mean, it's farcical, but it's like it part of it feels a little too realistic. To me, it felt like 20 to 25% exaggerated, and then other things I felt like were kind of believable. Okay, I'll give a quick spoiler on it. I'll hold my hands up when I'm done spoiling things to the camera. I guess if you're listening to this, I don't know, just go ahead a couple minutes. I don't know when I'll end. But okay, so the spoiler I guess I would think of is the question is when did would this actually happen? I think under that scenario, no, it wouldn't. There were plenty of outs because the first I think what was realistic is depending on the president, they may not take that seriously if the channels of communication got too muddied between the scientists and the executive branch. However, the scientists could leak that to other scientists around the world, and somebody would take it seriously enough so that it would get traction. And I think there would be other efforts other than just the United States launching a missile to deflect it for the so that there'd be backups and other backups. I think if we're talking about the entire world and that they understand the stakes, the U.S. might still be a bit of a lost cause, but I think globally something would have happened. However, I do also think it's realistic that you could have sabotage efforts from the U.S. towards some of them. But I think I think it probably something would probably go through. The part that was like the most terrifying to me was like the part about the tech executive, the Bash guy. That part felt like too believable. Like when he's talking to him, like he's saying, I'm talking about evolution." Like it's like, oh my god, like it's that pattern I've seen of the person has a point within a certain context, but it completely ignores so much larger points, and then they're using their power to kind of force a different narrative to the point where this is going to get us all killed or a lot of people killed. And there are real world parallels to that sort of thing. Not on that scale, I think, in the movie, but okay. Well, I don't want to get too dark, but okay. So yeah, the spoilers are over if you want to watch the movie. Yeah, if you enjoyed The Expert on YouTube, then that's the test if you want to watch that movie. Co-op Shell podcast used to hold up a finger for the duration of spoilers. Well, you can kind of scan ahead, and when I'm like going like this, that's an image thing. But yeah, I guess I haven't seen much else. I was really busy doing the Division. Well, I'm enjoying the Division. I tried a couple games that didn't quite make it for me. I tried They Always Run. It was okay, but I think it's going to be one I want to watch a playthrough of. Well, here, what did I add? That's right, I forgot to add something to my playthrough list. Oh, I finished the game Maize, Maize, like in corn. That one's kind of weird. It's interesting, but like if you're looking for like a kind of surreal comedy game, that it's not the funniest, but it definitely has an atmosphere. And if you're looking for like the aesthetics of it, almost remind me of Pee-wee's Playhouse, but I think they wore out some jokes for it. But if you like more tongue-in-cheek stuff, like then you might enjoy that game. I thought it was okay, but let's see. Oh yeah, I played. Okay, I played through this, but I totally cheated and had no regrets. The game Blazing Chrome. It's basically a Super Contra knockoff or clone, but I'd say it's harder. Like, and so I played through the first level legitimately, but I was running low on lives, and I was thinking, I'm not going to make it to the second level at this rate. And I basically gave myself the equivalent of the Konami code. That's a game that needed a Konami code. And so I just gave myself unlimited lives. I think the Konami code gives you 50, but it might have been in the neighborhood if I burned through about 50 lives. It's 50 lives for Contra for the Konami code, right? But The atmosphere is awesome. Great music, great presentation, great graphics. I mean, it really feel. There was only like the smallest of elements that you can tell this wasn't a game made in the 90s. Again, not that that's what makes Contra Code's 30. Like, oh, okay, well maybe I need a little more help than the Contra code, Konami code. But so I ended up using Cheat Engine on it and played through it that way, and it was fun. And to give you an idea, okay, I think like yeah, if you look at the Steam stats, like I think it was like 60% or maybe 66% made it through level 1. And I could make it through level 1 legitimately. That wasn't a problem. And then it drops off to like 30% make it through level 2. I'm sure if I replayed it enough times, I could make it through level 2. I mean, this is really, if I just kept playing this game over and over and over and memorize it, I could probably beat it after a couple weeks, but that's not fun to me. I kind of want to, it's just rote memorization and execution of timing isn't a lot of fun for me. Blazing Chrome Threads replicate hardcore, which is the hardest Contra game. Yeah, it's definitely harder than Super Contra for sure. But the aesthetics are awesome. So yeah, and I recommend using Cheat Engine if you don't want a brutal experience. So okay, well, I'll answer a chat question quick. It's going on 3 hours. All right, I gotta hurry it up. Half-Life Alex claims her father told her back in Black Mesa. No, you're talking about episode 1. I'm giving no spoilers for what's coming for story-wise with Freeman's Mind. Okay, yeah, I think they mentioned that in episode 1, what they're talking about. I already have a plan. Don't worry. Or if I don't, I'll figure something out. All right, so a few more questions. This needed more votes. Well, they're asking what's my favorite mod. I'm not sure. Maybe Zombie Panic Source. Do you see mod support making a comeback? I wish. Maybe not. I think what's going to happen with mods is there's going to be less that are like, I think you're going to see less and less total conversions, unless they're like really big games with like a rabid fan base, because the people willing to do that are probably willing to just hop into Unity or Unreal and make their own game now, or Godot. But what we need are more tweak mods, where you're just changing some variables or something. I mean, I was thinking that when I was playing The Division. It's like, man, this would be a really fun game for modding, because then you could tweak the values of the enemies. You could have more enemies coming. Like, some people really like their realism, and they really, let's say, you make it like way more tactical, so that it's like it really is like anything less than a shot to a vest is a kill, or like let's say you get shot in the arm and you're disoriented and you can't aim then, or something like that. Some people love that stuff. I mean, it could certainly make it more intense. I might like more standoffs with the insurgents or the rioters or something like that, or make them more concentrated, that sort of thing, or change the values. Or for sure, I want one that changes the time of day, or slows down the time of day, because sometimes maybe I just want to run around in the blizzard and I want it to stay that way, rather than have it change in 10 minutes. So, like, and unfortunately, that's an online-only game, and companies are just less on board now. If you look, I think, with modding, I mean, some aren't, but a lot of them, I think the ones that would benefit the most aren't. Mostly. I mean, there's always exceptions, because I'm thinking like Stardew Valley. That's an indie game that supports mods, and that probably has a whole bunch, and that probably complements it pretty well. But a game where you have like tons of assets and open world stuff, that's perfect candidate for mods, and those tend to be locked down. So Who knows? Okay, I'm skipping more questions. So I was asking if I would do director's audio commentary videos. I mean, not really. I'd rather make something new, you know. I do the video chat, so you can ask me a question if you really want to know something. Okay, I'm skipping more questions because these are down towards the bottom. Sorry, these would need more votes. Okay, well, I saw this one. I'll answer it. They're asking, what is my fastest mile time? When I forgot, but I know within the range it was. When I was doing cross country, I think my best ever time, I want to say it was like 5 minutes, 53 seconds. It for sure was more than 5 minutes, 50 seconds, but it was under 6 minutes. I remember that was a real big deal that I got under 6 minutes. So I certainly wouldn't make that now because even though I still run, well, I've been slipping lately, but I've been doing more hikes lately, running. But I'm planning to get back into it though. The running for time, like getting best time and racing, it can feel kind of miserable. Whereas if you're just running at a comfortable pace and just going a few miles, that's a lot more comfortable and you still get a lot of health benefits from it. So yeah, that was like my best ever time though, under 6 minutes. Like I could pretty comfortably at the time do like over like low 7 minutes. But yeah, that was when I was like really training and doing cross country. But again, I'm not competitive enough to care, and I just it doesn't feel nice, you know, pushing yourself as hard as you can for that duration. Because, you know, 6 minutes doesn't sound that long, but it sure feels that long, you know. Yes, speed running versus enjoying the scenery. Yeah, well, actually, I every time I go out to exercise, I'm listening to something. It gets boring for me just from scenery without it. So you just need to have good cardio, Ross. Or yeah, like in Zombieland. Yeah, exactly. Go for cardio. I mean, if you enjoy it, you know, well, races are fun, you know, because it that kind of pushes you more in a fun way because then you literally see the person next to you're running against. But you know, just training, you got to be in the right minds. I have no reason now to to maximize my time, so it's just go at a comfortable pace, you know. For the number one reason I run is to just keep my sanity, basically, and again, that I just feel better mentally from it. So. Are you willing to accept proper dubbings for a video such as Freeman's Mind, Soul Protection, and Game Dungeon if someone is willing to? Yeah, I mean, what would be the best way to handle that? Like, I mean, I kind of want to keep the main channel for just the stuff people care about. And the thing is, if it's in your language, that would make me. I mean, maybe I could put that for sure. I put it on Curse Farms junk. It's not that it's junk. It's just that, like, let's say it's like in Romanian or something, where it's going to be such a minority of the audience that's going to go watch that it kind of makes sense for me to have that more off the beaten path. So I don't. But yeah, I mean, I don't plan to really come after you if you plan to just release on your own channel, like the Russians. But I mean, it's not really worth it for me. But yeah, hey, you can put it on your. Hey, I'm giving you permission to put dub copies on your own channel if you kick back something to me. How about that? Like I've said it on video, so you can. Like by dubbing, I mean you're talking over it, so there's nothing there really for English speakers, like who want the. So if you put it on your own, and you can kick back something to me if you make money off it. I think that's I think that's fair because it's just not worth it for me to play copyright cop on this unless it's really bad. Like, again, if you just copy the video and then like that is like what 200,000 views or something, like, okay, you're really obviously just cutting into what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm fine with like unofficial kickbacks. That's that's less paperwork for me. I can just put it on as income, and then there's no contract or anything. So okay, I haven't played the Yakuza series. I can't Well, I'll say this: I can't pinpoint a thing that would repel you from it. Well, most of them aren't on PC, but Yakuza 0 is. So. So he's asking about there absolutely is another racing game coming for Game Dungeon, though it's not top priority. So I'll have to see how much the movie really is going to cut into some videos. No joke. I feel like I'm finally in a position where I can afford to burn more time on it. Okay, so they're saying they have problems buying cheap games and never getting around to playing them. And they stick to their usual 2 games. Well, I don't really have any usual games at the moment. It's like I've kind of played those to the point of exhaustion that I'm just I feel like I've seen all there is to see, or else in order to see more, the level of effort would just be ridiculous. That's kind of where I am with Path of Exile. I mean, I think it's a great game, but every mini they call them expansions. I call them mini expansions. They're more like DLC. I mean, all the mini ones they've added since I've last played. It's like, well, it does. This kind of sounds like more of the same thing. It's like it doesn't sucker me in that much. So if they have something big that really rearranges things, I would. But yeah, I've run into the reverse problem where I've gone through too many games and then I don't know what to play next. And sometimes when you're ready to play a game, you're not in the mood to like install it, configure it, learn the controls and like or the gameplay and that sort of thing, so that you end up just not playing a game instead. And so that bugs me. So one of my to-do things is to get ahead on several games. That's actually literally what I was doing before the chat started. I was thinking, okay, well, I have about half an hour before the chat starts. What should I do that I don't need like a lot of focus on, that I can just drop? So the games I set up that I just learned the very basics of were Moon-based, MEWN. Those when I got in that indie pack. And Lethis, something Daring Discoverers. That was another one I tried out. So now I have a couple. Now I've been playing some of the Division, so now I have those as some backup games, so that when I finish something, I can fall back on another one. So yeah, try to get ahead. Try to put down a day where you just play like enough of the game to understand it and get a feel for it, and just let it sit there, and then do that for a few games until you find some that you think, oh, I think I'm gonna like this, and then have those as the fallback for when you beat the other game that you're playing. So, I mean, if you really enjoy the 2 games you're playing, play the 2 games that you really like. I mean, that's what my wife does. So it's just that I haven't come across those games that eventually I kind of want something else. So. Okay, somebody's asking about game trailer preservation. And saying most of them are on YouTube. Well, YouTube compresses things, but unless it's something with a lot of foliage, I'd say YouTube quality is pretty good for a lot of game trailers. That the difference, like if it's a major company putting them out on like 4K or then, I mean, yeah, you are losing some quality, but that doesn't bug me so much. It's like the ones from like 90s and early 2000s, those are gonna be the rough ones. Like, oh man, there's like an old one I was trying. I remember there was it was a commercial. I remember, thankfully, there's some that were preserved pretty well for Nintendo ones. I remember for Kirby's Dream Land 2, that was a fun commercial where these bikers get up and one of them starts reading a poem, and then Kirby and his friends just start beating up all the bikers. And I think he eats one of them. So that was a good commercial. And I remember a real old one with Tetris with the bears for the Nintendo version. That was a. Oh man, there were some other game trailers and commercials I forgot that there were. I mean, I don't know how. Some of those may have been lost to time, or else you'd have to actually. Another reason for stuff entering public domain, you know? But. Okay, more questions. Someone's asking an update on my top 25 most anticipated games. I played a few since then, but I think I mentioned that in one of the chat can say which video it was. I gave an update on it. It might have been, I think it might have been the games list video. I played a couple since then, but check the games list video. I think there was an update at the time. I have played Hollow Knight, though I think I talked about that before. I played through it to the point, I think there was like this Manus boss. I can't remember if it was like the first or the second encounter that it was just, I just wasn't getting past it. Although I found out, someone in the chat told me, apparently could have beaten the game much sooner and I didn't realize it. It's a good game, but it's like it felt like an exponential curve for difficulty. You can play through a long ways in that game and it still has the same level of difficulty, but you get deep. I think I saw like I think I probably played like a good 80% or more, maybe 90%. That I just didn't get that last mile of those probably mostly bosses and stuff. I forget, but yeah, no, it was pretty good. It had a lot of cool imagery. Like that cartoon style isn't my favorite, but the rest of it was pretty solid. And again, I mentioned before how I felt like the music felt like a mismatch. I felt like this needed something like weirder and moodier for the imagery they were giving. So I was saying I should get together with It's a Gundam and talk about stuff. I'm not sure. I guess we could talk about how wonderful YouTube is. I'm not overly familiar with It's a Gundam. I've watched a few of his videos that were really funny, but a lot of his videos will be about like Twitch streamer culture, which I know nothing about. So I would be just complete fish out of the water with that. That's just something that doesn't have a lot of interest to me. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much don't watch any Twitch streamers. I think if I did watch a Twitch streamer, I think it would probably be Quinn69, because I've seen a lot of outtakes or clips from him that are just very, very entertaining. Very entertaining. I feel like he really feels like the id of gaming. Like we're just getting like the raw, unfiltered emotion from his reactions to things. He has lots of fantastic clips. Like, yeah, so I don't watch streamers, but if I did, it would be Quinn69, I think. Okay, somebody answered the question that they asked, so good. Yeah, realizing that Freeman is 47. Well, first, I think we don't know how old exactly Freeman is, but the other thing, that might not be his biological age, you know. because he was in stasis, and the game kind of reinforces that by like, how do you look so young? Because you are that young, you know. That was always my interpretation of it. So yeah, he's 40s isn't his biological age. Okay, I'm just skipping more because they're not. They're ones I feel like aren't particularly. I don't. I won't have any particularly insightful answers on. Mm, yeah, I'm kind of. Yeah, somebody's saying, are you ever gonna release a complete Freeman's Mind movie like the creator here did with this series? And he links to a YouTube video, and then the link is dead. So I guess not. Probably not, because I never really structured the videos to be like that. I mean, you can marathon it, but I mean, he's saying things during the credits. It's not meant. It wasn't really meant to weave together perfectly. I have been to an arcade when I was a kid. Yes, it was. And they're saying particular memories. I mean, uh, we'll rewatch the Carnival episode. I talk about some arcade memories towards the end of that. Uh, okay, it's getting some repeat questions. I have not heard the soundtrack to the Guilty Gear franchise. I can look into that. Do I prefer songs with or without vocals? If we're playing the odds, absolutely without vocals. I'm very picky. When I'm trying to think of like the last vote. Okay, look, I'm trying to think of like the last one with the last song in a game that I really liked that have vocals. I'm struggling. Okay, and literally today, I haven't even played Warframe, but I had the song stuck in my head of was it We All Live Together? The only reason I know about it is because I watched the trailer. Actually, I think the 1 minute trailer is like really great for it. I think it's like Fortuna. Here, I'll add that to the links. It's like it's because they start singing the song and like the camera lifts up and they hear like "Welcome to Venus," and then you see them like surfing along these hoverboards, and like that's a good trailer. Like it made me interested in the game. But even then, like that's not the singing in it isn't my. I like the tune, but the singing in it isn't my favorite. It's just that it's very. It definitely gets in your head quite easily. What's I don't know Black Bandana, or at least I don't know it by name. Let's. I'm because I feel like that Draven song I mentioned doesn't count because all they say is Draven, so that doesn't really count as like a vocals one. Even though I love that track. I know. Well, okay. This is kind of a cheat. No, it's not. Nah, no, it's not. The original Grand Theft Auto theme. Up, down, downtown, moving on the ground. Naked 27 got the power and he's bound to move any mother that gets in the way. This and the power machine on the freeway. I'm probably getting the lyrics wrong. Like, finally with me, there's my MC homeboy. Knowing the rules ain't part of his program. Yeah. Okay, so the GTA theme song. That I like that theme. That one's great. Yeah, the original Grand Theft Auto theme. And my wife's knocking on the door because that means I'm going on too long. Okay, so I'll wrap this up quick. I'm sorry, I'm just skipping more questions. I'll take a few live ones, then I'll end it. I thought this would go faster, it didn't. Okay, I guess, yeah, that's live questions. Sorry I had to skip others. Trying to see if there's anything else. Yeah, someone's saying, Marathon has some good music, but again, like, if it's just one word, I don't think that counts. Are you aware of the latest good news for Titanfall 2? That 100% falls under the preservation killing games? No, but Titanfall, I don't think was ever at risk, at least for the single player. Because that one got cracked, I'm pretty sure. Titanfall 1 is what never got cracked. USC 1201 has been amended to include narrow rights to repair exemptions for video games. It's a step in the right direction. Yeah, see, this is maybe. See, this is like, is the glass half empty or half full? And my experience with game preservation makes it half empty, because I'm worried. I think that already was approved in like the Library of Congress revision thing earlier. It's like, okay, fine, you're allowed to repair your game, but what does that matter if they've made it effectively impossible? Maybe the chat can help. I for sure talk about this in a Dead Game News episode. I think I even talk about that exact revision. It's the one where I show the clip from Oliver Twist. Yeah, I call this like Oliver Twist asking for more gruel, is what this is. Like, again, I don't care about the ideology of it or what the law says. I care about what the real world impact is. And I guess this would help some abandonware cases, maybe. I'm not even sure it does that. They're basically saying that you're allowed to release stuff specifically for that game that would violate copyright if the only reason is to get it running. And it's like, that wasn't really a problem anyway. Game copy world has been around for like over a decade or something. That's an illicit. I think that's probably is an illicit site, but it was getting the job done. You know, there had the cracks out there. So, I guess it can move more of that into the light, but we're not going for the biggest offender. Like, nothing's touching that. Well, that's my fault. I feel so embarrassed I haven't done more on getting the ball rolling in France. So that 100%, I'm going. Hold me to this completely. Like unsubscribe or don't donate if I don't did. This year, I'm going to pursue this as far as I can, like with France, with contacting that consumer rights organization, making the argument, if it helps, making video to get more people to contact them to try and get this examined by the courts. I say France, that's covered in the Valve versus France Dead Game News episode, because they have the best chance of success at making headway on this. So, yeah, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm going to get that done this year, for sure. Hopefully in the next few months. It's one of those things, it fell on the back burner, and then I got ready for it, and then the pandemic hit, so I felt like, oh, this is going to feel kind of tone deaf. But now that's kind of getting more normalized, so. Okay. EU wants to replace all ICE cars with EVs by 2035. However, it feels more like a move to bolster EV sales and to be green. Green move would pour money into public transportation. Do you have any opinions about that? Yeah, I agree with you. Despite what I put in Oil's Silver Protection episode, I feel like if we could go back in time, that would make more sense. I feel like the ship's already sailed. The environmental impact of moving to electric vehicles. Internal combustion engine. That's what I stands for. Okay. We're not taking this problem seriously enough. It's like, this is where your outlook varies, where some people are going to see this, well, it's a step in the right direction, whereas I see this is too little too late, and we need to get serious. Otherwise, I'm just like, I just kind of drift back into escapism, because it's like, okay, reality's not on board with trying to stabilize things. So trying to have humanity live sustainably with minimum death. That's how I look at it. So if they're just not on board with that, and I don't feel like I can influence it in a meaningful way, I mean, that kind of more. Don't let me get you down. It's just I'm explaining where my mind's at with it. It's yeah. Well, who is it? I think it's Chris Hedges describes like the real activist on stuff as having a divine madness. That's what's needed. You know, where how effective you are is almost irrelevant if you're trying. You need it's a bit of a paradox, because if you get a critical mass, then change really does happen. But if it's kind of a chicken and egg cycle that's kind of hard to break out of. But it can be futile if you don't get the critical mass. I guess that's it. Have you seen Project Zomboid exploding in player count since the latest patch that had stable multiplayer? No, I hadn't. Project Zomboid is one. It's probably at to the point now where I can play it even though it's still technically early access. It's more like I got to carve out time to address the learning curve. I'm not always in the mood for a learning curve when I want to play games, but when I have more free time, I am. If Louis Rossman is making it in the right to repair movement, I think you can make it when it comes to copyright, fair use, and preservation. I disagree in the United States. I think it's more... See, Louis Rossman hits more real-world people. Like the... See, I'm only really hitting gamers. And even then, gamers that care about preservation. And I think that's a smaller population. That said, I'm absolutely seeing a potential path to victory in Europe. So I figure, start there. Let's go where our odds are best, you know? And then it can kind of work backwards for other markets. What's your opinion on sugar versus artificial sweeteners? Sugar, okay, my understanding of it is it's only a small exaggeration calling it poison. Saying this as someone who really can enjoy sweets, as far as like what it does to your system. It's poison. Now, obviously, it's poison we can metabolize and bounce back from, but it's so not good for you. Artificial sweeteners, that's in territory where I have no idea what they're doing. And like some of them have been found to be linked to cancer, others maybe not. However, I have heard, by all means fact check me on this, I have heard that even not even artificial sweeteners, let's say like alternative sweeteners, like I think like stevia or something, that over a period of time, if you take them and use them like sweets, it actually can have similar effects on insulin sensitivity as though you had been having sweets. It's like something in your brain rewires you to expect it. I don't know. This is over like long-term period. And for the really artificial stuff, I have no idea what they do. So, okay. I have played through Grim Dawn. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think I played through all of it, like in the expansions. So. It was all right. I don't know. It had good atmosphere, but it never quite hooked me in the way some other action RPGs did. I really like the world, though. That Grim Dawn is 100% a game I would want to mod so that I can like go through and just walk around through the world ground level, you know, as though like a behind the shoulder view or first person, that sort of thing. We could just slap a skybox on it. I would love to do that. Okay, I think I'm going to wind it down if there's any other quick questions. Okay, someone's saying sensing sweet makes the body make insulin until it rejects it, since you need to burn sugar, which you don't have at that point. Like, I'm not sure the details. Like, and also when I was dunking on fruit juice earlier, I'm not dunking on most fruit. Like the fiber balances it out so that like our bodies are meant to eat fruit. Although I've heard that like it's not necessarily a year-round thing, because that's actually not how we would have evolved. Fruit probably wouldn't have been a year-round thing. You know, it would have been a seasonal thing. So, do you play any multiplayer games? I have. Well, I guess I've been doing the Division lately, but that doesn't really count because I'm just playing it like single player. I haven't done any lately. I don't know. I think what happened was sometimes I would really like a multiplayer game, and then it would change, or it would change in a way for the worse, or the player base would just kind of disappear, and then that kind of left a bad feeling. And I guess that happened, and the level of single player games I'm interested in has just kind of increased exponentially. So it's like, my God, why don't I go through some more of these and figure out which. Oh, it's like, let me catch up on my backlog and then I'll do more multiplayer, is kind of my attitude now. Now, if there was a multiplayer that like I really love the theme of, or this how it sounded, I might get on board, but the ones I know of haven't like utterly grabbed me in a way that like, oh my God, I gotta try this. So I'm waiting for I'm waiting for that kind of gaming crack, a multiplayer game, you know, where I just can't put this down. Like, you know, I'm too into it. Do you see yourself playing Division 2? Oh, yeah, maybe eventually. It's not going to get a Christmas episode, though. I don't think it has any snow. But yeah, I'll see. Yeah, somebody told me that in an email. Apparently, I haven't confirmed this. I had no knowledge of this. Apparently, the Division 2 does have ninjas and a mech or something like that. I don't know. All I know about it is like the cover. Like the cover has DC in shambles. So, and I've learned a little more about the story and the original. I'm still trying to stick to the story challenge. Let's see. I've learned that the virus probably wiped out 95% of the population. So that's a big deal. That the government's not bouncing back from that, like, or at least not in normal means. So, are you ever afraid you'll miss the window on multiplayer games before it's patched and when it had players? Only if I was like really interested in it, and I've gotten really picky. I mean, it's got a. Besides, I'm in a bit of a unique position. I mean, this doesn't help you, in that if I really wanted to drive up support for multiplayer, I could probably, as a YouTuber, I could probably get enough people to get games going, unless they kill the game for all time. So, all right, I think I should. Oh, that's a great question. I have sent globally or in the city. It might have just been in the city. I didn't check that out. So, all right, I think I went on too long again. Uh, More videos coming, though. I do not know what. I don't know what's coming next. Probably Freeman's Mind. If I get super lucky with editors, then you'll have Game Dungeon soon. If I don't, it'll be slower. And gotta get this big side video out of my system. But that's a one-off thing, and I really want to make the GUI follow-up, but that's gonna be a long-term thing too, because I want to get my own system as good as I can with it. So Unreal Tournament 99. See, I kind of feel like I've played a lot of Unreal Tournament. I kind of feel like I got my fill of it. So, okay, I'll stop here. Thanks for showing up or listening to this. And I'm a mess and late, but I'm still working on things. That's a good way to end this. Okay, I'll see you.